A very crowded place, so it was quite logical. Because today, someone is facing the death penalty. The blonde who was on her knees, completely tied up, turned to Alexandra, asking why she was doing all this. But she just cried, asking how the lady could do this. The girl shouted that the half-blooded descendant of the royal family had acted very badly. But in fact, she had arranged everything to become the empress. Everyone is perplexed, but this is to be expected. Alexandra cried that she could not even think that her sister would conceive high treason, because everyone was kind to her. She said that, finally, she would express condolences to her sister, to which she received a storm of positive emotions in her direction, because a real empress shows mercy even to traitors. The lady began to approach the cheater, saying that she didn't want to say goodbye like that, when suddenly, coming closer, the brunette said that she wanted her sister to die as soon as possible, saying this in her ear. She said that she found it funny that the dirty half-breed was trying to help her, and a sign appeared in front of the heroine's eyes, asking whether she should leave the game. The girl could not believe that this was the end of the game, while her worst enemy hypocritically giggled in vain. Finally, they decided to proceed with the execution, which made the people rejoice. But Charisse knew she couldn't end up like that, dying ignominiously from having her head cut off. But even if this is the ending of the game, the blonde wants to end it differently. In an instant, the lady disappeared and appeared in another place, because she decided to simply load a previous save. The player grinned and gave the girl the middle finger, saying that without her, she would never have become an empress. The girl was very angry about this, because she spent her last money to upgrade herself. Recently, a popular game was released called I Became the Genius of the Imperial Family. This is a game in which you need to choose one of the heirs and make him emperor. The first part of the game, where you need to duel two aristocrats, was very easy. But the second part, where you need to make the heir emperor and save the world, is too difficult. The main character, Charisse, chooses an heir to create an emperor. Players can change his status and set his occupation. The role that the heroine chose was a pharmacist. Initially, she wanted to prevent the character from being poisoned, but through collecting, experimenting, and selling, she was able to earn a lot of money. She was able to accumulate enough funds to make her character an empress. But Alexandra did not believe her and remade the story. She got rid of the pharmacist as an obstacle in her path. Finally, the lady was already bored with this game, and she needed to quit the game and go to work. She wanted to take off her virtual reality glasses, when suddenly the screen began to make glitches. At first, the girl thought that the screen was broken and was scared, because it cost a lot of money. But suddenly, a new notification appeared for a while. The brown-haired woman was surprised, because she had never seen this before. The girl saw an ad that looked more like spam and didn't take it seriously. The lady wanted to refuse without even reading the offer, but suddenly the answers changed and her money was debited. But, unfortunately, refunds are not possible in this application. In an instant, sparks began to pass from the screen, and then a huge hole sucked the player into itself. The blonde woke up in the body of a child, and someone started shouting for the girl to get up from the floor faster. The player immediately remembered that she had often seen this place in the game. She again received a notification that a large amount would be debited in 3 seconds. But the lady did not have that kind of money. Due to the fact that the payment did not go through, the game identified the player as a debtor. The player was very scared, not understanding what the hell this was. Little Alexandra screamed that Charisse was not capable of even such a small thing, because she asked to just get on all fours. She looked at the girl, realizing that this character was too smart, because in the original, she was 15. She thought she could delete the account because she couldn't handle that much debt. The sister shouted that the girl seemed to have taken water into her mouth. The blonde instantly screamed for the bitch to stop because she was still too young and didn't have to do all this. Then, the eldest assumed that she was not strict enough. She said that nothing would work out for her, so she should pull herself together. The lady realized that her sister would beat her, not understanding how she even thought of this. The game kept saying that Charisse's character customization was complete. Castalia is a country in which the imperial family is revered. But the lady is far from this, since she is a half-breed. Because of this, everyone looked down on the girl, and her life did not turn out well. She had to choose a ruler. But no matter what choice she made, the game ended badly, due to the fact that the main character has always been a villain. Thanks to the memories from the previous game, Charisse knew what she needed to do, namely, run away from her older sister. She needs to get out of the palace and find a safe place. About the rest later. The girl wondered if she could really make decisions on her own, but it was a little awkward for her to control someone else's body. Alexandra, taking the whip, said that her sister was scared again, but she still needed to be taught a lesson. She probably thought that the younger one would follow her instructions. When the girl was in thought, the brunette said that she did not like beating the horse with a whip so that it would start moving. But when she bent down fast enough, Charisse raised her head, hitting the lady on the chin. When the older sister screamed, the girl hurried to run away because she understood how dangerous she was. Afterwards, she only heard that she would eventually die anyway. The castle was full of empty rooms, and you could hide in one of them. The girl knew that she had a bad character, but she couldn't even imagine that she could raise a hand against her. But suddenly, the blonde saw the same rabbit who had tricked her into giving her that product. She cursed the rabbit, saying that she would not leave it so easily. The lady promised herself that she would catch him and return her money, as well as her body, to the real world. The girl went into the next room, right behind the red one, but he was not there, although she saw him here. The player began to look for the scammer, when she suddenly remembered that she needed to hide. After listening to the door, the girl fell to the floor and sighed when she realized that he was gone. The heroine did not know that Charisse had gone through this, because the game began with her 15th birthday, and now, the lady is younger and weaker than in the game, so she will have to hide for a while. She needed to pay 10 billion stones, and no one knew how long it would take. Plus, the blonde didn't know what to do if she was constantly being bullied. In this world, everything would be better if the girl was 15 years old now. But looking in the mirror, the lady was surprised by her appearance and concluded that being small is not so bad. She thought about enjoying her youth, because she needs to think positively, even if she is 4. I wondered if Charisse would be able to pay off her debt if she started right away. When she played, all she had to do was snap her fingers for the main menu to appear. The combinations were the same, but in the first place was duty, and in the second, becoming the heir to the throne, from which the blonde was shocked. After all, the game should be a simulator of becoming a queen, and not a search for an heir. This game is simply about the struggle between the children of the emperor. It is about the struggle of all the descendants representing each other. The Emperor of Castalia is an incarnation of a god who lived for more than 200 years. He has 14 grandchildren worthy of taking the throne. Among them, 11 are fighting for the throne, and the main character is Charisse. She was the dark horse who preferred to choose the heir. But will she be able to survive in this cruel family and also learn and complete the third task? Suddenly, the voice of Alexandra was heard, who seemed to have found her youngest burden. The sister grabbed the girl by the collar, shouting that she would not be able to escape from her. When a character becomes an heir, he gains the ability to fly using magic. In an instant, the second attempt to pass was activated, and the girl returned to the moment of the game, where she was forced to get on all fours. The older one started stamping her feet and screaming because the 4-year-old child was not doing what she said. Then the red-eyed girl realized that she should not perceive what was happening as a game. Even after the end of the game, the essence of the task did not change. In other words, the lady misunderstood the task. If you look closely, it says escape, not get out. So instead of looking to try to get out on her own, she should enlist help. But there was the most important problem. Everything here was aimed against the youngest heir. While the girl was distracted, she was already grabbed by the hair. All the characters' lines were repeated. But the child realized that Alexandra was not alone. She could do whatever she wanted. The lady hit her on the nose. It was simple, because if she didn't run away, they would beat her again, although this was nothing compared to what she had already gone through. But in an instant, Charisse turned around, not understanding why it was so clean. The older sister froze as her nose began to bleed from the blonde's blow. There was a cry that the girl could not dare to hit the brown-haired girl. Suddenly, a new task appeared for 10 stones, which obliged the blonde to help stop the bleeding. But she became thoughtful and began to run, because some task was not more important than her life. But when she saw the reward, instead of punishment, the lady was surprised, because 10 stones were given to children as pocket money, and it was funny. The girl is tense, her life is under threat, and she is thinking about money. The player decided to try to complete the task when Alexandra was already running up to her. The blonde deftly shoved a cloth up her nose to prevent her nose from bleeding. She froze, and a maid burst into the room, asking what happened. The nanny arrived, whom the heroine immediately recognized. She was shocked that she had not kept an eye on the child. She started talking about how it was impossible, and Charisse thought that the girl had come to save her. The girl ran up to her, crying for help. But the woman passed by, hurrying to Princess Alexandra. The nanny began to ask who hurt the girl, to which she only looked at the old woman. She heard screams and went to see what was the matter, but saw a child with a broken nose. Suddenly, the servant realized that this was the work of that very young girl. And Charisse, in turn, remembered that the nanny was in no way on her side, because no one here would ever be on the side of the blonde. Now it was clear why she wanted power so much, but now she is a nobody. But the maid quickly discovered her disappearance. The nanny shouldn't have behaved like that. So the girl stood up and asked again if the woman had really called her a scoundrel. At this, everyone was shocked, because in an instant, Princess Charisse spoke. But now the older sister was much more important, which made the nanny ask why the younger sister was so cruel. The girl is the emperor's child, so she must not be allowed to bear a scar. The girl realized that she was no longer a member of the imperial family, because her parents were no longer alive. But if they were alive, would they really still treat her like an empty place? Alexandra said that she was completely fine, and let this be a lesson for her sister. After all, she will have to take action and resort to magic. She was angry because first Charisse made her bleed, and then she put a rag under her nose. Alexandra wanted to show her the heart of the dragon, the embodiment of Alpha and Omega, the symbol of the imperial family, which was passed down with honor from generation to generation. The story goes that in a thrilling battle with the venerable Dragon Lord, the illustrious emperor emerged victorious, forever etching his name in the scriptures. And the heavens responded to the valiant feat by bestowing a great reward, a second heart that had the power of a mighty dragon. From now on, the imperial family passes this sacred relic from generation to generation. Charisse is filled with holy powers, even though she is forbidden to use the dragon heart on younger ones, or until she reaches 10 years of age. A new achievement came out, namely the attack power of the letter F, making Charisse even more helpless. There was one good skill, but it is not available until the player pays off half of the debt, because she is a researcher at the Pardis Institute and a graduate of the Faculty of Pharmacy, and cannot use her skills. Alexandra ordered this girl to kneel. The nanny grabbed the child, shouting for her to apologize to the princess, even though she had not learned any manners from her dead parents. The old woman did not understand how she was even entrusted with the care of such a nasty creature. The player understood that it was not her fault that mom and dad weren't around. The woman threw the girl to the floor, screaming for her to beg for forgiveness. Alexandra demanded that Charisse kneel down and kiss her hands. But kneeling down and kissing hands was a sign of submission to your master, but not something a princess should ask of another member of the imperial family. At this, the blonde screamed that she would not do anything, biting the older woman on the leg. Malaya also added that the nanny was right. They didn't teach her anything. But suddenly, the sister realized that she needed to run away, because the eldest was going to kill her with magic. She fell to the floor, wondering if there really wasn't more than one adult here. They should guarantee some kind of safety until she reaches the age of 10. She began to call for help. But suddenly, a man arrived, asking what was the matter. But the girl did not remember that her sister had children who could be taught life. Then, the princess was happy, because there was a chance that he had come here to save her. But Baikal Win Castalia was a prince of the Northern Empire. Red heard a strange noise and decided to find out who was teaching the etiquette of the imperial palace here. The man said that Alexandra had acted stupidly because it was forbidden to threaten members of the imperial dragon family under 10 years of age, and most likely, the young ladies needed to be taught a lesson so that they would learn this rule. Nanny defended herself by saying that Princess Charisse started first, but she was quickly shut down by saying that it was getting too noisy. Although, come to think of it, this woman is Charisse's nanny, not Alexandra's. The guy looked at the child, asking if she was okay, but he cleverly noticed that the lady was silent because she was afraid of him, but this turned out not to be the case, although it was rare that there was a child who was not afraid of Baikal. The man suggested that it was all about the sacred heart of the dragon. The player again received a system notification that she had increased the pharmacist's skill, but she did not understand since when the game became a medic simulator. Red ordered his assistant to take the child home. He extended his hand to her, inviting her to follow him. Charisse completed the task. Thanks to an adult, she was able to escape from Alexandra. The lady received a new task, namely to cure the Prince of Indigestion, for which he was given 1,000 stones. I was wondering if completing quests with higher status characters gives more stones or if it depends on the risks, but in any case, this is a good opportunity to pay off the debt. The girl could not miss this opportunity and jumped into the arms of the savior, calling him father. Everyone present was shocked, thinking that the princess had gone completely crazy. This was a good strategy for making money, so the blonde decided to treat the prince, asking him to take her away from here, because he could become her personal protector. Looking at the child, the guy said his name, asking not to call him father. But the assistant suggested that now the red-eyed one will call him that way, because it seems that she really thinks that the eldest is her father. He took her hand, and the player tried to seem nice, saying that she wanted to be a daughter for the new dad. The child shouted that she was a good and obedient girl, so she wanted to see her dad. The girl realized that he was her mother's brother, so she decided that he needed to adopt her. She asked to help someone who was feeling bad, and to be Baykal's daughter. She began to beg to shake her hand, to which the man said that he felt as if the lady wanted to break his neck. The girl said that he just needed to prick his finger, because the blood would flow out and his stomach would stop hurting. Then, the guy wondered if the princess was definitely not hurt anywhere. The blonde removed her skinned hand, declaring that the wounds were not due to an argument with her sister. She said that she fell while playing, because adults don't like problem children. Therefore, you need to be calm and obedient so that they want to adopt her. Suddenly, Baykal picked the girl up, saying that he was changing his mind and the child did not need to be taken home. He hugged the bundle of sweetness tightly and said that he wanted to take her to the house himself. Because she is not afraid to call herself his daughter, the man decided to keep an eye on her. The player was very surprised that finally someone took her side. In an instant, a notification arrived that the training had been completed, and the player's body would temporarily switch to sleep mode. In turn, Baykal forbade Alexandra to touch Charisse, because if she dared to lay a finger on her, he would take custody of her. The prince said that from that day on, as punishment, the lady was forbidden to leave the palace for a month. When the advisor asked what they should do with the little princess, the redhead replied that she said that she wanted to be his daughter, and he could not refuse her. When the child fell asleep, the man ordered to find out from the nanny what happened, and then act according to the law. Charisse woke up in a cozy bed and felt much lighter. The bed was soft, expensive. It was comfortable to live in this room, but the lady did not understand where she was. Suddenly, Sophia, the eldest daughter of the Everville family, one of the families serving the prince, arrived in the room. The player had already heard this surname somewhere, namely in the 500-year history of Castalia, where names were remembered not only by the nobility. The imperial family is served by dozens of different families, among them the Everville family, which is said to be one of the most loyal families. There were rumors that they would not step over themselves even at gunpoint. It was good to have such a person next to the girl. Dite decided that she needed to immediately meet the maid. Sophia hugged the little princess, saying that she wanted to make her happy, because from today she will become her new nanny. His Highness personally gave the order. He simply could not leave the princess in such conditions, because she was treated horribly. The prince found out about what had happened, and was so angry that he called a new nanny. She is treated this way because she is from the Wind dynasty, nothing else special. The nanny began to dress up the little lady to take her to breakfast, and she realized that she liked it here much more. The girl began to braid the lady's ponytails, which she also really liked. Her new dad should also be having breakfast with them, because he confirmed it himself. But suddenly, the girl asked if she could eat only rice, or rather, if she could not eat if she was full, because she was not hungry at all. The girl was very surprised, to which the younger one asked if she didn't like her presence. His Highness had other brothers and sisters, but he always treated Kina in a special way. Charisse was still lucky, but there was a question as to why he left her for so many years. Although this is just a game scenario, the player seems to take it too deeply. The brown-haired woman instantly promised that ladies would not be bullied in this palace. You can't let your guard down in this game, even if you know the plot in advance. When the blonde was brought to the table, she was touched, because even though she knew that Castalia was an art empire, even the table was set with taste. The new father suddenly asked if the princess had a least favorite food, but she replied that there was nothing she didn't like, because Charisse is a picky child. The man was surprised that there was nothing like that at all, but the blonde was just trying to seem like a good daughter. An obedient child should constantly show mercy and should not cause problems, and such a child could very well become Baikal's daughter. There is nothing better. Moreover, a lady must learn to use her skills correctly. Red was puzzled that Charisse looked like a perfect child. The blonde realized that the guy still had indigestion, which had not gone away. She could take care of everything, but she needed the prince's hand. She hadn't done this for a long time, but she was sure that everything would work out. When Charisse was just a child due to indigestion, her grandfather pricked her finger. The girl entered the faculty of pharmacology, which caused the shame of the Yun family. She tried to justify herself and explained that she did not go to medical school because she wanted to become a scientist and develop new drugs. But the old man did not want to hear anything because he spent a lot of money so that his granddaughter became a doctor. Grandfather also shouted that now he had worked in vain for such a fool. The heroine thought that she had clearly explained everything to him, but no one wanted to listen. It didn't matter anymore, because now she needed to eat first and then think about everything else. Everything looked very tasty, so much so that the lady's eyes widened. The lady wanted to eat grilled chicken, but suddenly she was served pea soup because they thought that since she was not picky, they could give her healthier foods. When the girl thought about something else for food, she was offered stewed cabbage. The man thought that he chose the blonde because she is not picky, but in the end, she refuses any food. Hearing this, Charisse said that if necessary, she would eat what she was told. The assistant only burst into laughter, asking His Highness not to tease the princess, because why force a child to be a vegetarian? Thinking that the red-eyed girl didn't like vegetables, the guy gave the order to come up with dishes that would make her want to eat. After trying a little food, the girl realized that the food here was very tasty. The servants asked to be allowed to put some food on the plate, so that the lady would not deny herself anything. The woman introduced herself as Nanya Lindensky, the count's wife, to whom you can leave the table setting, because she will do everything to make the princess feel at home. To this, the player stated that she was glad to be part of other people's worries, showing how polite a child she is. While she was eating, the lady noticed that her new father was sitting over a glass of wine, but the man immediately noticed the look of the lady who was thinking about her task. He said that the girl could tell if something was bothering her. Calling the redhead father again, the child began to run to him. She took his palm with her tiny hands and raised it above her. Charisse asked if she could poke his finger with a needle. All the servants were horrified, but the child did not understand why everyone reacted this way. They began to think that the princess wanted to mock His Highness. The blonde began to explain that she wanted to cure indigestion with an injection, to which the servant only thought about ancient magic. Although, if this were offered to the girl herself, she would also be taken aback. The man asked how the lady knew that His Highness had stomach problems. Charisse blamed it all on her attentiveness, saying that she saw that Dad ate very little karaoke, to which she thought that it was due to digestive problems. To this remark, the girl said that all this was nothing, because she had not heard a single compliment from him. She really wanted him to say something, because his silence was frightening, because he really doubted the knowledge of a 4-year-old child. When the blonde was asked what kind of treatment this was with a needle, she said that she dreamed of a dragon. It was a huge creature that had a lot to say. He also told the little one what to do when her stomach hurts. He spoke about the effects of various herbs and taught how to use them for medicinal purposes. The lady said that all this was taught to her by a dragon from a dream, which was amazing. The player herself began to wonder whether her father believed in such nonsense. It would be great if she could use the game's plot as an excuse, but it still sounds like an eloquent lie. The prince said that he wanted to try, because he saw no reason to refuse. It is unlikely that a 4-year-old child will harm him, so it is worth preparing everything as the princess says. The countess asked to name everything that the red-eyed woman needed for her treatment, writing it down in a book. The blonde asked Sophia to lean towards her so that she could tell her everything in her ear. She handed over the book, which contained everything she asked the lady to prepare, to Nania. It was necessary to prepare a clean needle, To avoid pain, it is worth choosing the longest and thinnest one. Be sure to disinfect clean bandages. After reading this, the servants concluded that the girl was very sweet and began to prepare everything. She was asked why the lady only told Sophia about this, to which Charisse replied that the whole point is that Dad is very worried about how much it will hurt. Initially, this palace was the residence of the emperor. Baikal was an impregnable fortress. The girl played this game for about 8 years and knows how difficult it is to get there. There was a search for spies, bribery of servants, and arson, and the player never learned anything. It was so difficult that the lady never got anywhere, but ended up here after adoption, and now she is immensely happy. Finally, everything was in place. Everything was prepared as the princess ordered. The first step was to tie a bow in the right place, which caused the advisor to giggle that His Highness had a cute finger. The second step was to heat the needle on the candle. The lady explained this action by saying that if the needle is warmed up, there will be less pain. Next, I needed to tighten the bow on my finger. The lady needed a little blood. There was no point in sticking the needle too deeply. The main thing was not to place it in the wrong place on the palm. A system notification appeared that the player had completed the task and cured the prince of indigestion. Surprisingly, Baikal felt much better and lighter. The man asked how she did it, to which the lady replied that she used folk remedies. The servant said that the girl could be praised, because she really did well. The redhead patted his daughter on the head and said that what she did was great. The old man concluded that the doctors are cowardly. As soon as they say even a word, they are already shaking with fear, and the prince needs treatment. And the lady was not only able to take his hand, but also pricked him with a needle. The notification came again that the indigestion had not completely gone away, which made the lady think that she needed to prick her other arm. The new task was to complete the first one and cure the indigestion completely. In the garden of the Midnight Palace, there are plants that have different effects. You need to find herbs or fruits that can cure indigestion and make a natural potion from them. The reward was 10,000 stones. The tree that came to mind is the first to bloom with the onset of spring. This is the plum, a symbol of fidelity. Its flowers begin to break through the snow. Cream syrup is considered a natural remedy for digestion. It helps with minor ailments, so it is better to make it in advance and in large quantities. After training, men are usually exhausted and very thirsty. If a girl gives them this drink, it will increase her reputation. It seems that Charisse saw plum trees along the way. They grow on the territory of the imperial palace. They probably don't throw away the fruits. She wondered if she could use them, and she also wanted to ask how long the lady could stay here. Dite noticed that the adults were still talking about how nice the weather was. I wondered how much longer the princess could enjoy a normal life. The prince had to leave already because he had a lot to do, but the girl could not allow this. Red said that if the problem is Princess Alexandra, then there is no need to worry. She will not leave her palace for a month. But the point was not that she could be calm, because no one would mock her. The blonde understood that if she could not gain trust, she would miss the chance that she barely had. The girl said the man told her he wanted to see if Charisse could be his daughter. Red-Eyed thought that His Majesty would test her. Yun couldn't retreat, especially since she had nowhere to go. Besides her, there are many people with the last name Win. To survive here, she must hold tightly to the Divine Prince, the only one who can help her. The red-eyed man said that the lady could very well become his daughter. He said that children who play well are good children, to which the blonde was surprised that it wasn't even about studying. The adult said that, on such a nice day, you don't want to sit in the palace and do nothing, so the child can run around in the garden. He said that tomorrow she should report to him how well she played today, so you shouldn't worry about anything, but play as much as you want. Although Charisse still had things to do in the garden, the girl didn't even think that he would tell her to play. Although making plum syrup is also a game, a very tactile game. The servant said that he did not think that His Highness would actually break the spell. The man announced that if she wanted it that way, she should be allowed to do so. But still, the young princess doesn't even know how amazing it is that she managed to touch Baikal. The guys concluded that finally, the Midnight Palace would become brighter. The owner of the palace had returned here, and naturally, the situation would change. Very unexpectedly, another small star began to sparkle. Red said that after her, she was the first who approached him without fear and was able to hug him. This is true because the youngest princess was also like this. She also wasn't the least bit afraid of His Highness. Keen's mother is Win Castalia, and it is impossible to find out who the father is. The documents say that she is blessed, but the girl does not look like that at all. The pronunciation is simply not entirely correct. This was found out during the interrogation of the nanny. However, she really was blessed. They didn't know how, but the woman immediately remembered it. This cannot happen to a child suddenly. Perhaps until now, she was simply withdrawn. And after Bakal appeared, she decided that he could help her. So she began to talk. The northern and southern parts are one state divided into two. The Castalia Empire is ruled by two emperors, but equality in governance is only in name. In fact, all power belonged to the northern emperor. This is the first swordmaster to resist the dragon, Leocaud Royal Castalia. The reign of Mr. Leocaud has exceeded 150 years. But if he still loved his family, he doesn't even know how many descendants he has. Still, he cherishes his 3 children, Jen, Chin, and Vinna. Baikal himself was a descendant of Win. That's right. The bloodline of Leocaud's only daughter, the faction supporting Win, was very powerful, much stronger than the Jen and Chin faction. He needs to find out what happened in the palace while he was away. After all, no one knows what happened that Jen began to hate Win. They had to prepare a plan for destruction. Disdaining the princess and appropriating her property means that he does not feel sorry for his life. Red gave the order for Sophia to find out if Charisse had any jewelry, and if they were confiscated from her, perhaps the remains are melted-down jewelry. The princess cannot use the melted-down jewelry of impoverished aristocrats. Now she needs to find a good craftsman. But entrusting the making of jewelry to a master will be easier. But it will take too much time. The man cannot afford even the slightest delay, so he asked Sophia to use the first level of the 4th floor. Let her take whatever suits Charisse. Sophia will clearly be delighted, because it is an honor to visit the place where the magic of His Highness has been cast. This was only the first level. All there was were clothes and jewelry. And still it is a great honor, because there are also jewelry that the guy was going to give to Mrs. Kiena. The man remembered this, even though it was a long time ago, how the girl asked her brother to play with her. But he left, because if the girl touched him, she would be torn to pieces. When she grew up, the girl said that she was going to leave the imperial palace because she thought that all this struggle for the throne and confrontation with the faction was not for her. If she left, she should have lived a happy and calm life, leaving only a letter. When he read it and arrived at the scene, he saw something terrible. The prince felt sick when he tried to remember that day. He didn't understand why his memories were erased with the help of higher magic that even he himself could not remove. Perhaps he had weakened greatly during those 4 years at the bottom of the lake. This was simply impossible, for sure. It was necessary to suppress his power. Otherwise, the man would have done it differently. He has always been a heartless person. When they sent a note to Sophia using a carrier pigeon, the advisor suggested talking about important matters, namely about Kinia's daughter, who will have a long conversation. Charisse played, forgetting about keeping track of time. She had not run so breathtakingly for a long time. The girl had a plan to charm the redhead and become his daughter, and then he would admire only her. And then, with the help of power, the girl can easily complete the task and return home. In other words, this is a project to bring the cat back, and all for the sake of the day when her plan will be fulfilled. The girl finally found the child, telling her the important news that His Highness had allowed him to enter the 4th floor. The divine prince lived in the Midnight Palace, a 3-story building. According to the design, there was no 4th floor. The question was, how then would he get to a floor that did not exist? The 4th floor is a secret floor that the prince created with magic. When he became an adult, he built it with the help of the dragon's heart. There he keeps trophies, jewelry, paintings, fragments. All items are divided into 5 ranks, depending on importance. These are very expensive items, so his permission is to take something from there. Sophia said that most of this cannot be compared with anything. In any case, if the lady doesn't mind, she would like to go to the 4th floor right now. Dite asked to do this later, because she came here for plums. The blonde showed her the tree, because she wanted to make compote from the fruits of this tree. But the servant thought about it and explained that these were inedible fruits. In the imperial palace, even the most useless things are not simply thrown away. Most likely, the fruits are now in storage. Then, if it's not very urgent, then Charisse would like to go get her dad's gift a little later. The brown-haired girl asked if His Highness said that she could play as much as she wanted. Then, if she could go to the vault and check if Ursula was there. There were several problems, the first of which was the dragon's heart. The man suggested that even in this, she was similar to Kina. It was the advisor who provided the measuring device, which he left yesterday near the princess's bed, during which time it should have been filled, but it remained practically empty, and it is unknown whether she can use the dragon's power. Baikal paraphrased that Charisse is just like an ordinary person. If this weak girl begins to take part in the battle for the throne from the age of 11, then this is understandable. Gray proposed in advance to abandon the idea of transferring the throne to her. But this is pointless, because it happened more than once that members of the imperial family who left the palace became ordinary aristocrats and supported their own factions. They just continued to fight this fight outside the palace. Almost nothing would change. Then the question was, what to do best? Princess Charisse would not be able to defeat even the weakest descendant of the emperor on her own. But the redhead objected, saying that there was another way. Having guessed what His Highness was talking about, the man shouted that it was quite difficult. It wasn't even that the guy might not succeed, but it's still better to think again. Members of the imperial family cannot simply change their place of residence. Its reputation will be ruined. The assistant said that if the blonde was weak, then rumors would begin to circulate that she could not cope with her duties, and rumors would spread very quickly. As a result, the reputation of Charisse herself, and at the same time her mother Kina, will be tarnished. No one wanted to see Win's name trampled underfoot. It must be remembered that criminals experience awe when they hear the name Win. As Baikal said, members of the imperial family cannot move and enjoy protection without a title, so there is only one way out. The man stated that he would simply adopt Charisse. The advisor said that he would deal with this first. But the fact that a man will have a daughter is a memory. He already has children, Idsit and Gersik. As befits the offspring of a divine prince, they were strong from childhood. The dragon's heart was in perfect condition, so Baikal had never worried about them until now. He didn't like it. Just one word, she would be well looked after, and she wouldn't grow up in such contempt. After all, was it really like caring about her? Baikal whispered that this was a cruel man, even if he was his great-grandfather. Suddenly, he instantly remembered that the girl had said that she had been taught by a dragon. He talked about acupuncture. She said that she was taught by a dragon in a dream, to which he said that dragons patronize the imperial family. This is quite possible. But there is something different here, because the man does not mean that the princess lied. More likely, the lady could have made it up. It's more like the truth. Judging by the nanny's words, Charisse had never been trained in anything. Naturally, she does not know how to speak correctly, nor letters, nor table etiquette. But she knows a lot, as if someone taught her this. Red couldn't just believe that the dragon really had taught her all this. But he quickly decided that there was no point in guessing. Rumors must be spread that there is a princess who is under the protection of a dragon. She is not wretched, but simply educated by the dragon himself in a dream, and also that Baikal is going to adopt this special princess. The servant asked how His Highness would tell his sons about this. They would soon return from the academy. Then he would introduce it to them. He simply put Princess Alexandra under house arrest, and this was surprisingly possible. She bullied Charisse and incited her, for which she will write letters of apology for a whole month, asking her to give it to her. For Princess Alexandra to write letters, it would be very unpleasant for her, even if someone wrote it instead of her. The aura of a dragon's heart should be felt. The assistant simply loved various intrigues, and he could add words that she had exceeded her authority. This is where the confrontation with Win began. It is necessary to restore the trampled pride of their family name. The man suggested that he should first tell Princess Charisse herself. Baikal will tell her when she is fully accustomed to life in the palace. After all, he was worried that the girl might die from surprise. The man said that the lady wanted permission from the prince. Namely, she would like to use all the Ursulum from the storage, but these fruits were inedible, and it is not known where she would use them. Come to think of it, he didn't say anything to Charisse. She figured out that he had indigestion. She used a remedy he never thought of, and maybe she had an idea this time. The man said that she should do what she wants and use the Ursulum for her own purposes. Baikal asked Solip to add one more item to the list. He needed something else. All books that describe how to raise a daughter in an ordinary family. No matter how many books there are, the redhead will read them all, analyze them, and become an ideal father. It seems that His Highness has some strange desire. The blonde was asked what she was going to do with these fruits, to which she replied that she wanted to make a medicine that they drink when their stomach hurts. The old man had been caring for the plants in the palace for half his life, but he had never heard that Ursulum had medicinal properties. He always did nothing but remove it when the fruits appeared on the trees in the spring. The wild plum does not have much of a taste. If you eat the whole fruit, it is understandable that it was considered inedible. But the princess said that the dragon told her in a dream this method, which could not be found anywhere. It was very convenient for the cattle to constantly refer to the dragon, because everyone believed her and could not say anything against it. The lady clapped her hands and ordered to cook compote from plums, that is, from Ursulum. The girl put in a lot of sugar, saying that the fruits needed to be candied so that they would infuse, so a lot of sugar would be needed. Sophia asked how to wash this fruit, and the girl replied that you need to twist it and wash it carefully so that there are no stains. But suddenly, Charisse noticed spoiled plums. They were tasteless, and they wouldn't make compote. She decided that she needed to quickly sort through and throw away the spoiled ones. Remembering Uncle Tomby, the blonde said that she had to ask him to do something very important and dangerous. He needed to remove the seeds from the Ursulum. Despite the fact that he had been working in the garden for several decades, it was not necessary to take out the seeds. The seeds contain a high content of amygdalin. If she wants to quickly make syrup, then it is better to take them out. When combined with water, this substance is not dangerous. But if you eat a lot, it can turn into a dangerous poison. A large amount is poison. Small doses are medicine. That's why restaurants often used to display apricot kernels at the checkout counter. In action, the player once thought that it was candy and ate one, but the mother said to spit it out, because children are not allowed to do this. Noticing that the young princess was thinking, Sophia shouted, asking what to do next. After they have mixed the plums with sugar, they need to fill the glass jar halfway. And after that, the compote will be ready. There was only one thing left to do: leave it all for 100 days. Everything was fine, but she was worried that she had to wait 100 days. The lady felt sorry for Dad, because he could have indigestion for 100 days, to which Sophia stated that there is such magic that speeds up the fermentation process. It was possible to make sure that everything would be ready in a few hours, which means Charisse could give the prince the compote tomorrow morning. This way, she can complete the task and distribute it to the knights. She won't have to wait a whole 100 days. The next morning, the maid reported that the lady got up very early. She asked if she was tired, to which the red-eyed woman simply asked her to do her hair. They changed her clothes and asked her to go to breakfast. But the girl was interested in one thing: whether the plums were already infused. It was necessary to quickly check and take the compote to the prince. When the girl walked into the kitchen at Sophia's request, everyone greeted her with a smile. Granny said that the girl was very nice, talking about rumors that she made medicine from plums, to which Charisse was surprised that she was greeted so happily. The lady was immediately shown stacks of cans that were stored in the kitchen. The compote was in perfect condition, and there was no mold on it either. The girl concluded that magic was very convenient. The princess said that it should be strained and poured into a jar. For the medicine, you do not need the Ursulum itself, but rather the liquid. Then you need to close it tightly. It should be stored in the same way as other medications. The girl explained that she should do this herself, because it was her idea. They poured this compote for the princess to give to her father, saying that it was time for her to go have breakfast. She was glad that she would soon be able to give Baikal a taste of her medicine. But upon arriving at the place, the lady discovered that the man was not there. The assistant reported that His Highness got up very early, had breakfast before dawn, and got down to business. But, thinking that Dad was avoiding his new daughter, the girl burst into tears. The assistant looked away and asked the princess not to be upset about this. After all, His Highness usually wakes up at dawn at 4 in the morning. He has breakfast and does business since the morning, and around dawn, he trains with other knights. The lady was surprised that her dad was very diligent and didn't even seem to care about indigestion. In this case, the girl asked if she would be a big hindrance if she showed up at the training session, to which he replied that he believed that this would not cause major problems. Suddenly, all the knights were surprised when they saw that a little girl appeared on the field, smelling of sweat. She turned to one of the trainees and asked if they had seen the divine prince. Hearing this, the guys began to get nervous, showing with their hands which side the main one was. In an instant, His Highness Baikal entered the field, noting that the field was very dangerous, therefore asking what the girl was doing in this place. The blonde ran to the redhead, calling him daddy, and the knights wondered if the prince even had a daughter. She said that she came because she missed her, so the man was surprised, because they had only seen each other yesterday. Those around him were shocked to hear how His Highness spoke to the child, so affectionately and caringly, so much so that goosebumps appeared. Dita hugged the prince and whispered that she was a little offended that she was the only one who missed him, and that she also brought a gift. In this case, Baikal decided that he should apologize and see what the gift was. This gift turned out to be a medicine that should stop the stomach ache. Suddenly, hearing about this, all the knights shouted that their stomachs also hurt. But the man, holding the girl close to him, said that if anyone came close to his daughter, it would be the end of them all. The compote tasted good, even if it was made by a small child. Sophia said that she herself was surprised that Charisse prepared it herself, and the unpleasant feelings inside after this drink really went away. The only thing he didn't like was the excessive attention to the princess from the guys, to whom the blonde considered it her duty to distribute the compote. She said that she specially brewed this medicine to share with everyone. It should be drunk warm when your stomach hurts, but in small quantities. The guy was obviously jealous, because the lady was giving away precious compote, and he barely had enough for himself. He wanted to drink the already cooled drink, when suddenly Charisse took the cup away, saying that if you drink it cold, your stomach will hurt again. The prince thought that the girl somehow reminded him of a kitten, and it was impossible even to be angry with her. Baikal was a person who was fluent in martial arts, and even magic. A comprehensively developed handsome man, educated in various fields. But his main weakness was the cat dilemma. He never told anyone, but he is an ardent cat lover. That's why the princess, who reminded him of a kitten, seemed very cute. The man was angry that people who call themselves court knights could not resist the mercy of a child. They completely lost their minds over someone else's daughter, but Charisse seemed to like it herself. But there is no need to rush. There is no need to strive to capture and analyze. Parents still cannot know about everything that is on their children's minds. The prince realized that he was too caught up in his own thoughts and asked Sophia to take the child away because they needed to continue training. The girl still had a lot of time, and there was no need to rush. That's what training is for. She had to read those books first. In a moment, the blonde again decided to distract Dad by taking his hand. She thanked him for the gift on the 4th floor and asked him to call her Cherie. The red-haired prince smiled, because this little girl never ceases to amaze him. The man stated that now was the time for duels, because they had rested too much, and they should make up for the wasted time by asking them to attack him. The task was completed. The player restored the powers of the Divine Prince and the Knights, for which he receives an additional reward of 10 stones. The maid began to lead the girl to the 4th floor, which she spoke about yesterday, because she wants to show the lady beautiful jewelry as soon as possible. She said that it was very difficult to get there, and you couldn't go in without permission, but it was thanks to this that the storage facility became the most reliable place in the world. Walking further along the corridors, the girl saw a picture of a girl with white hair that looked like Charisse, but it was her mother. Lightly pushing this portrait will reveal a rank 1 room on the 4th floor. Rubies, peridots, and sapphires were kept here, as well as pearls. Only a divine prince could create such a vast space filled with magic. They say that the Southern Emperor cannot do this, but if the divine prince is so strong, then why doesn't he take the place of the emperor? Suddenly, the lady saw the crown. Putting it on herself, her master prepared it for Kina, but could not give it to her. The girl had a question why he didn't give these jewelry to her. No one knew this, but Charisse understood one thing. The size of this tiara expresses love for her family. It was immediately obvious that Baikal carefully selected each pebble. It was interesting how her mother felt, knowing that she had such a brother. The blonde whispered that she would like such a family for herself, to which Sophia stated that if the lady liked the jewelry, she could take it for herself, despite the fact that it belonged to her mother. But the prince is unlikely to be angry if the only daughter of Lord Kina wears them. Surely he will only be glad that these jewels are not lying idle. The tiara that Charisse put on her head really suited her because she looked like a princess in it. But it was natural, because the girl is the real Princess Win. Sophia suggested going to other floors. They say there are simply countless strange things in the Midnight Palace. The girl thought and decided that the princess needed another maid, because she deserved the best treatment. A week later, it was raining heavily outside, because autumn is coming and the weather is getting colder. The servant said that today the lady needs to dress warmer. Another girl prepared comfortable sheepskin shoes for her, and another piece of clothing, putting magic into it so as not to spoil the delicate skin. These two were new maids, of whom there were now 3. They appeared here a week ago. They are faithful servants who have passed a strict selection in the Everville family. It was a great honor for them to meet the princess about whom they had heard so much. A new task was discovered. It was necessary to calm the fanatical maids so that their hearts did not beat so fast. For 10 stones. The player noticed that all sorts of tasks related to treatment appear, but since they give stones for it, she must complete it quickly. The girl said that the servants could hug her. Suddenly, one of them asked what was wrong with the lady's hand. The wound that her older sister left her has not yet healed, although this one will not go away in a couple of days, even if you apply ointment. The blonde said that it was nothing serious, because the wound really didn't bother her that much right now. But then the red-eyed girl thought that this was her chance to increase their interest in herself. So the lady immediately changed her shoes, telling the story of how she accidentally hurt herself, but she still hurts a little. Therefore, she asked to anoint the wound with ointment, believing that everything would pass. The task was completed. The player calmed the 2 maids and received 20 stones. They are the type who sometimes go a little overboard, but are very sincere and friendly. Sophia, assuming that the rain would not stop soon, suggested that the lady exercise a little. There are subjects that every member of the Castalia family must master. This includes history, starting from the Lord to the current ruler. All princes and princesses studied this first, and then began their main studies. This was good, because such information will help the player in the game. The servant was amazed that the child had such an interest in education, but since they were talking, it would be better to start learning right away. She said that usually this subject is studied before the age of 5. It should have been taught to the blonde maid in the previous palace. But since they still haven't done this, Sophia Everville will train her. The lady showed on the board the genealogy of the imperial family of Castalia. The lady very quickly found herself in this family tree, for which she received praise. But the player thought it was useful, so she agreed. But still the lessons are boring. Suddenly, the princess jumped up, asking if Sophie could see what was sitting next to her, but it was a cat. It seems like the teacher doesn't even know that there is a cat sitting behind her, and meowing, because only Charisse can see her. The blonde decided that she would simply not pay attention. Sophia's user recognition has been completed, and recording has begun. As she already said, the Castalia Empire is divided into southern and northern parts. The northern part has been ruled by an emperor for more than 100 years. He is Charisse's great-great-grandfather, and in fact, he was more of a southern man. After the emperor ascended the throne, everyone in the imperial family was called the new generation, unlike the ancient generation, which consisted only of the direct descendants of the emperor, the absolute emperor Leoshad, who captured the heart of the dragon. After the coronation, he destroyed all his brothers and sisters, and his descendants were considered only those born from the second generation, his own children, forming the current imperial family. She became the younger sister of the dark magician of the imperial family. This was mentioned in the tutorial at the very beginning of the game. Depending on the names of his children, 3 factions were formed: Zung, Jin, and Win. They fought for power. This is all that was known to the player. Suddenly, Sophia asked whether Leokhad could continue to rule the empire. Why was it necessary to divide the country into 2 parts and put another emperor at the head of the southern lands? The reason is that the emperor wanted to give his descendants an equal chance, and any member of the imperial family could try to gain power like his if they wanted to. In this way, he transferred power over the southern part to the rest of the family. It was from then on that the struggle for power over the southern part began. It feels as if he deliberately threw them bait in order to strengthen his own position in power. But now the girl realized that there is no place for feelings and compassion in this game. As far as she remembers, among all the 11 contenders for the place of heir, Charisse Win Castalia was the most inconspicuous. In this game, the main character was originally a dark magician, so there is nothing to be done about it. the princess asked what happened to the members of the imperial family whose last name was not Castalia. After completing 15 years, such people are expelled from the palace according to the system of exile. It was just terrible, because they could also kick me out, and then the game would really be over. But exile and exile are two different things. They are given land and given the title of count. This has its advantages. Pharmacist Yunche Ri from the real world and Princess Charisse in the game. Every day she became further and further from Yunche Ri and closer to Charisse. But we must return quickly so as not to lose ourselves. There is less and less confidence that she will be able to return home at all. Her goal is too far, and she is just an orphan princess whom everyone despises. But the lady wondered whether it was necessary to return, and what would be left with the real player. Sophie guessed that the lady was a little tired because she suddenly fell silent, deep in thought. The lesson was over. The maid would like to continue, but the man behind looks at her with a stern look. The man behind turned out to be the girl's father, who suggested that she was too focused on the lesson that she did not notice him. The man asked if the lady had anything to do after school, when suddenly the same cat jumped on his shoulder. He said that he wanted to show the girl something. Charisse could already picture in her head Baikal telling her that she should leave because she was getting the skills of a princess. The lady began to tug at the prince's hand, asking where he was taking her, but he replied that if she found out, she would be shocked and it would be better to go and see in person. The blonde didn't like all this. A red light was already squealing in her head that they wanted to kick her out. Judging only by his face, it is unclear what he is thinking. The player thought that Sophia said that they were sent into exile after 15 years. And what if she understood everything wrong and would only waste stones? There was a question about whether to buy her a hint or not. But just in case, so as not to make a mistake, the lady bought a second chance. About 30 minutes ago, during class, the player suddenly received a message. It didn't seem like a task, and perhaps it had something to do with the system. An advertisement came that you could use a set of 10 tickets with a hint for 99 stones. It was strange, because the ticket couldn't be so cheap. It felt like they were selling something for 1 billion, but they gave it back for 10 billion. If a lady buys and forgets about it, it will only be to her detriment. It seems that this was what was intended, when the hair from the system said that the greater the discount, the greater the debt. Now, Charisse Wynne Castalia has become a slave. The lady decided that this was very important, and she would accept the proposal later. Due to the closed message, a notification flashed before my eyes all the time. But the girl still has 10 tips, and she definitely won't be kicked out. No matter what happens, she's ready. But suddenly, when they walked into the room, the blonde saw a bunch of gifts. The girl was surprised, because the gentleman said that he wanted her not to be disappointed, to which she received the answer that the man wanted to make the room even more magnificent. But everyone was against it, saying that the nursery should be age-appropriate. Everyone said that the more decor, the higher the likelihood of getting hurt. Then, Wynne asked, what about those words about how it might shock her? She didn't understand why she bought an item, although she didn't even know what it was for. The lady thought that she could exchange it for another gift. The man prepared this room especially for Cherie, while she was worried about the tips that she had bought in vain and didn't even pay attention. The red-eyed one said that she really liked the gift. This is all nothing, because he prepared such a beautiful room for her, which was very touching, and he carefully chose gifts and decorated the playroom. The prince bought her colored pencils, and Charisse told her that this was a first for her. The only thing the girl knew was that His Highness truly cared about him. The princess came a little closer to Dad and said that she was receiving such a gift for the first time in her life. Baikal was glad that his daughter liked everything, saying that it was not in vain that he tried so hard, and even called Sistani. It was one of the 5 great duchies. They are also called the Builders of Sistani. Tarn artists and Orgean sculptors were also invited, and they all helped decorate this room and choose toys. Having learned this, the blonde asked to receive a big bow from her. If there is an unresolved question, it is why the prince cares so much about her, since Cherise is not even his own daughter. The man said that there was no need to thank him so much, because the lady fully deserved all this and could use it. The gentleman said that since the lady had a nice playroom, she could go and use it, and he would sit and watch. The girl was happy with everything, and she would like it to last as long as possible. The player decided that she would not do anything with the hints, but since she bought them, she needs to use them to the fullest. You just have to be more careful not to get caught. The lady started pretending to draw to portray the game in front of her dad. She used one hint. It was detailed. Although for such a price, it's nothing surprising. But she remembers very well. The hint said that if the player loses, she will start all over again. All collected gems will become invalid. She must be wary of dying in the game, since even if she manages to pay off the debt before the reset, she will have to start all over again. However, special items are kept in the user's chest and do not disappear, and it requires 5,000 gems to activate it. The princess did not remember that there was such an item in the game. However, if this item is connected to the system, then it means an item from Dragon Street. This is a place where all sorts of rarities and magical items are sold, but the goods from there are very, very expensive. Previously, when Yun played, because it was very expensive, she didn't even go there a couple of times. But it's useful to know about this thing in case the game ends unexpectedly. The lady chose another clue, but she got the information that if she has a debt, various penalties will be imposed on the player. But this information was useless, since this was already discussed. Win realized that only 1 or 2 clues contained important information. She began to select clues over and over again, but information was given out that she already knew. Finally, the girl found useful hints that told about rewards depending on their type. Only by completing these tasks can you earn a lot, but the girl did not know how to buy additional episodes. But suddenly, Dad approached the child, saying that it seemed to him that Cherise did not like to draw, and he thought that she had started her drawing a long time ago, but the sheet was still empty. The prince said that if the blonde didn't like drawing, she could play with something else. But afraid of disappointing her father, the lady screamed that this was not so, and she just wanted to draw Daddy. But Dad is too handsome, so she didn't know how to draw. Then, the divine prince said that one cannot quickly complete what one starts when it comes to art, asking him to think more and draw. The blonde approached the man again, distracting him from reading the book. But she did not play enough and did not finish drawing. She sat on his lap, asking if there was a chance that the twins, who would soon arrive, would like him. In fact, they really didn't like Cherise. For them, she was a sudden little sister. All that Win knew about them was that the twin sons of His Highness were rotting. Idsis is smart and perceptive, like a fox, and Gergis is strong and honest, like a bear. Gergis is naive, so it will be enough to simply gain his mercy. The whole problem is Idsis. Even when playing games, he shows unusual ingenuity. But the father was sure that these two were not so infantile as to be at enmity with their little sister. They did not pay attention to anyone but each other. Cherise wondered if Baikal cares about her so much, then maybe he really wants to adopt her. But if she asks him about it, it's not certain that he will answer. It would be great if he said he was adopting her at the party. Suddenly, the gentleman had a question about what a father should be like. The player only remembered the smell of antiseptic and the sound of a pacemaker about her father. It seems that somehow he smiled kindly, but the lady is not sure. It was too long ago. The girl said that he should be able to braid her hair and sit her on his lap, and also go shopping with her. Baikal seriously thought that his father should know all this. He even raised his own sons in Spartan conditions. Also, Cherise added that her dad, no matter what she does, he should be on her side. For example, if she did something wrong, do not swear or drive her into a corner. The man said that whatever the princess does is always right, and no one dares to say that she is wrong. He said that he would not allow his daughter to meet such bad people as Alexandra, who do not know their place. The princess said the first thing that came to mind about her father, and the redhead had already managed to braid her hair. There was nothing in Castalia that the blonde couldn't get. He didn't know what a theme park was, but he was willing to build one and take him there. No one would dare bully his daughter or make fun of her. Yun thought wrongly, because her father's love feels much warmer than she could have imagined. Even if she doesn't think about wanting to return home, if she has such a family, she would be willing to not repay the debt. The lady fell asleep right on her uncle's lap when the advisor approached him, but he said that it was too loud and Cherise would not be needed, to which the old man handed him the documents. The prince asked if he really proposed to put the child, who had fallen asleep from crying, down and get to work. The divine prince said that he does not read out of interest. He reads to learn. If you read it, it says that a child falls asleep when he hugs his father. The advisor asked what the name of this book was, but the gentleman was not reading a book on education, but a fiction novel. But be that as it may, if the matter is urgent, then let him leave the documents and leave. Suddenly, the child woke up, looking at the elder. Baikal said that he had a lot of things to do, but he needed to set an example for the princess. And yet, it was great happiness that the girl was with them, because His Highness softened very much. The guy began to say that Cherie was very smart, kind, with a bright character, and even sweet, and it felt like a flower had blossomed in their palace. But the blonde didn't do anything outstanding, and these words smack of flattery. In an instant, the man told him to go to the office. He pretends that it is not so, but he liked the princess's praise. The adoption process was going smoothly, and as soon as the two princes returned, they could hold the adoption party. The letter from the dean said that the twins passed their exams early and left. They did not know, but they were not the kind of people to whom something could happen. And Sophia would also ask the master to make the plum blossom with magic. This is because the princess prepared a medicine from that Ursulum. She said that she wanted to make it the theme flowers of the party. The gentleman asked me to convey that this is a good idea, and he will take care of it. If the poster is made, all external affairs will be over. This was entrusted to a trusted servant, and around the morning, rumors will spread on the streets. Everyone will say that Princess Cherise is that girl who can't talk and just exists quietly. Apparently there are people like that. Apparently, His Highness somehow felt sorry for her, so he adopted her. There are rumors from the palace that this princess is not actually blessed. They say that she actually received the blessing of a dragon, and that she was smart enough to make medicine out of poison at that age. Perhaps she hid it to save her life, but Jen's faction is the main one in the imperial family. But Princess Alexandra received punishment. Now that His Highness the Prince has returned, things may soon change. Perhaps when Princess Cherise comes of age, she could be a strong candidate for the throne. The girl was doing business in the garden when she suddenly noticed that someone was talking about her. In a moment, the uncle was surprised that the princess was covered in dirt. This was the first time he had seen a member of the royal family who loved gardening so much. She took a full basket because there are many medicinal herbs growing in the palace. This was natural, since the central and side gardens were planted with decorative flowers for aesthetics. Grandfather easily found what he needed: flowers, trees, and medicinal herbs. Still, there was more harvest than expected. No matter what task related to medicine comes in the future, she will easily complete it. There are golden flowers that relieve inflammation. There is a laksha tree that removes phlegm. In the greenhouse, there are also various herbs and flowers used in the treatment of wounds. It is absolutely no different from the apothecary shop. Cherise was in a good mood, but her uncle was sure she should be careful. There are a lot of useful things in this palace. Traitors or snakes can crawl inside and hide in the grass. Even if a lady gets hurt, she can be healed with holy power. But it's better that this doesn't happen at all. The blonde wondered what the level of medicine is in this world. She did not need to see a doctor during the game and never received treatment here. But with commoners, it is different. They are not as strong as members of the imperial family and can get hurt while working. If they get hurt and just leave it like that, real trouble could happen. The old man said that he usually goes to the medical office in the palace. The palace servants use simple medicines from their medical office, and those who live in the palace usually get treatment in the temples, so perhaps people are waiting there in the temple. Gafneus sells medicine, the goddess of faith and love. Among the gods of the religion of Castalia, she is the main, most symbolic goddess. Of course, the status of her temple is also high. She is called the only force capable of resisting the imperial family. This was the first time the lady learned that medicines were sold in the temple, but she was very surprised that the medicines cost about 10,000 gold. It was very expensive. A rich family of 4 could live on it for a month. The situation with doctors is not so good. There were fewer doctors than priests. You won't even be able to see a doctor if you don't wait a certain amount of time. Regarding the wait, the situation in each temple is different, but you need to be prepared to wait up to 1 year. The blonde went into shock because she did not understand what to do if the illness worsened, and there was no time left. Time is life. The same number of people die in a year, wasting time. She asked if it was possible to meet with the doctor quickly, to which she received a negative answer. Although there was a way to meet earlier, all you need to do is donate a large amount of money and move forward in the queue for treatment. Order is determined neither by urgency nor by record, but by money. Those who have money receive treatment, but those who do not, after a long wait, eventually die. In the game, she once completed a task about an old woman named Paba. There were no medicinal herbs in the place where she treated people, and because of this, there was a commotion. The old woman once told her that if they help the village, this Paba will gladly become a spy for the princess. It was a short task, so it sounded so simple. The lady began to perform it, and it seemed to her that a man named Paba was replacing the doctor in all matters. Since there are doctors in this world, only those who have received a license can treat, in which case, even if everyone was silent about it, the existence of Paba was actually illegal. It's true that only licensed professionals can treat people, but if people don't know if they can get to a doctor, even if they work hard to raise money, the girl can't blame them for looking for alternative treatments. She did not understand what would happen if ordinary people were given access to medicine. If she had thought about this earlier, she would not have wasted her energy on insignificant activities. The old man suggested that the princess was interested in the difficulties of those in need. He also said that the goddess would have mercy on her if the lady prayed and strengthened her faith during illness. If they were treated properly, she could recover even without the goddess's grace. Charisse thought that she still had a lot to do, and she needed to think about what to do. There are two pressing problems in this country. The first is the low access of common people to medicine, and the second is the level of medical knowledge is also low. This is a romantic fantasy game, so nothing can be done about such pressure, because this is how it was in the Middle Ages. First of all, this is a game in which she has to solve tasks about her pharmacy, but no matter how fictional the game is, there is still a caste system here. In such an unusual setting, if you recklessly decide to start working as a pharmacist. The tips tell you about 3 types of tasks: hidden, unexpected, and achievements. Charisse hasn't tried the achievement quests yet, but if you think about it, it would probably be an important quest for the scenario. The lady does not know when the plot of the tasks will go beyond the palace. It is necessary to increase the availability of medicine so that the commoners do not feel burdened. In an instant, a boy appeared in front of the princess, shouting that the lady had an arrogant face. The blonde didn't even understand who he was, but he continued to say that she should not dare ignore him, calling him a nobody. The bully said that he, unlike the girl, is a universally recognized prince because he is Ashvigen Castalia. If the person playing the game doesn't know him, he's obviously from the expansion, and most likely there's nothing outstanding about this guy. First of all, this is the garden of the White Knight Palace. Then why did he brazenly show up at her house and start a quarrel? It was annoying, so there is a way to avoid it. But it is dirty, so the girl will be intentional about avoiding it. But based on his character, it is obvious that the guy will tell everyone that this non-entity was simply scared of him. The princess began to get angry, thinking that this boor cannot behave like this. But she has the pride of the Wynn family, which is why she will teach this child manners. The boy laughed, ordering him to tell how scared the lady was in front of him. The last straw was when this freak began to threaten with a dragon's heart, to which the girl stood up and looked at him. The blonde said in a calm tone that she wouldn't be afraid of him here, to which the boy shouted that Charisse was petty, and he didn't want to hear anything about such a little thing like her. Also, he added that the lady was vulgar, like her mother, because that he received a blow to the stomach. Dita started screaming, very loudly, for the guy to start apologizing. The offender was surprised, because he realized that something was wrong with the personality of the blissful idiot. He stated that Alexandra would not leave everything as it was if she found out about it. The lady is no joke to Alexandra, because that was only the case before His Highness took her. The blonde talked about a red medicine that will drive a person crazy if you drop it on a wound, so she is ready to hurt the boy and then pour it on him. Charisse didn't even hide the fact that she was threatening him. The lady ordered that in this case, from now on, this loser should not set foot in her garden. Surprisingly, the girl didn't do anything like that, and her offender had already run away from fear. Red Eyes thought that he must have learned that the Wynn family should not be treated with disdain, but it would be worth telling His Highness that such a person came to the garden. Meanwhile, the twins sat in a tree and watched, concluding that Charisse was better than she seemed. Aid was actually going to intervene, because besides that, he didn't want his father to know that they were hiding here. But she said that this child made medicine from Urslam. She has the ability, so if they take her to her grandfather, then she will definitely help. He meant that the girl would be able to cure her grandfather, if everything went well. Then they would be able to earn extra points, And if not, then she would not be scolded, since she was only 4 years old. Then the question is how to lead her to him, because she just drove Jen away. It wasn't enough, because he didn't have to pay for bullying Win. The offender ran and shouted that when Alexandra appeared, she would not dare to say anything in his direction. Suddenly, Win's brother appeared in front of that guy, saying that he knew that he was having fun on Win's territory. He immediately started saying that it was all a misunderstanding, because he was just passing by. The second brother appeared from behind, saying that they saw everything he was doing there. He thought that Mr. Id was at the academy, but he didn't need to know that. Gurgis, of course, is scary, but if compared, he is better. You can just get punched a couple of times from him. Id asked if Jen had any excuses, since he still didn't know why his brothers were treating him like that. When the offender guessed, he fell at his feet, kneeling and asking for forgiveness. He didn't know these two were here and wouldn't be there again if he was forgiven once. The guys said that they would forgive it and be lenient just this time, but the guys suggested that in this case, if they weren't there, the freak would have continued to insult Win. Aid made the decision that he needed to take this situation into his own hands. The girl said that she taught Jen a lesson because he insulted her mother, for which she received praise, because Jen's children are growing up without knowing manners, and they need to work on themselves. The blonde wondered if His Highness was good at braiding hair, and assumed he was practicing because of her. The daughter said that if he showed up here again, she would drive him away. The volume of documents is serious. While she is playing, His Highness and his assistants are doing this. If you think about it, the assistants' faces look tired, not even comparable to the knights from the training ground. The princess said that she wanted to watch her dad, because if she helped them relieve fatigue, like the knights, it could give her extra points. The gentleman's assistants are also tired. She wants to make something like Urslam tea for them. Everyone said that the lady was very sensitive, the only one who took care of them. Red Eyes felt awkward because everyone liked her. And let's see what medicine suits the helpers. Mister's cat is here today. His Highness calmly went about his business, while the cat came to cuddle with him. She decided to ask directly by drawing this cat and asking who this kitty is. But Bakal was very surprised that Charisse saw this cat. The lady was surprised whether she should have seen this cat at all. She saw it absolutely clearly, so it couldn't be a lie. As it turned out, this cat was the master's magical pet. This cat's name was Moth, and she was the magical pet of the Divine Prince. The reason why this cat often appeared was because His Highness was nearby. Other people shouldn't see her, and for Charisse to see her was very strange. To see a magical pet, you must have innate conditions. You must at least have the power of the Midnight Dragon, something that is only allowed to the strongest of the imperial family. That's what a magical pet is. But the girl is the weakest of the weakest, and it is very unusual that someone like her can see her. She cannot have a magical pet. This is also a bug from relocation. The man asked not to think too much about it, because the blonde is a special princess who received a blessing from the dragon. Apparently, she also deserves to be chosen as a magic pet. Edis and Gurgis also have their own pets. You can ask to show them later. The lady heard this when she was born. She had a pet, but later he became disappointed and ran away. Charisse was a blissful person in the past, so she didn't recognize her magical pet. Suddenly, the girl thought that the rabbit she saw on the first day was not just like that. If the pet's owner was so strong that he could drag her into this world, no one came to mind other than Emperor Licord. But what to do if that rabbit is really the Emperor's pet? It can't be. Even if he is so strong, he is first and foremost a character from a game. This is not something that digital characters can do. Suddenly, the girl was distracted from these thoughts by a maid. The fact is that she broke the kettle, and Charisse was already afraid that something serious had happened. The maid shouted that she would take everything right away. The blonde noticed that all the servants' hands were wounded, but she said that yesterday she was polishing antique candlesticks, along with other maids. It seems that is why the rash appeared from the iron. But the lady immediately realized that it was an allergic reaction to the metal. This is an allergy caused by touching metal containing nickel. It burns and is also very itchy. But the servant said that this will soon pass and should not be taken into account. But it was very itchy, and it would be nice if there was an antihistamine, but there is no such thing in this world. Suddenly, the girl remembered about the ointment, shouting that there was a cure for this, the medicine that she previously asked to anoint, the ointment that makes everything heal quickly. She wanted to quickly run and bring it, but they stopped her instantly, asking her to calm down. It was the prince who said that the things of the imperial family should not be just given away, especially if it was a gift from the temple, blessed by the high priestess. He suggested to Siami that it would help her get better quickly. The girl immediately tried to calm everyone down, because she also had good medicine. She took out, in her opinion, a good ointment, of which there was already a lot. But it smelled terrible. Even the smell of rot was better. And there was ointment made a long time ago. The princess asked, covering her mouth when Siami bought this ointment. She replied that about 10 years ago, when she had just joined the Everville family, the maid decided to buy it because it was of high quality, with a high poppy content. This shocked Charisse because medications have an expiration date. The big problem was the poppy, a plant that has very beautiful flowers, but it is often used for completely different purposes, because drugs are made from the milk of the poppy. Poppy is the raw material for the production of opium, which is highly addictive. In the past, poppy was also used as a medicine due to its intoxicating effect. It also had analgesic properties. But it's better to make medicine from safe calendula. The girl heard that this flower is also in the greenhouse of this palace. The princess asked the brunette to throw it away. The girl really thought that the medicine gets better if you use it for a long time, because her mother told her so. But you can't reason like that. If not only Siami, but everyone else thinks so, she needs to start eradicating such an opinion. The prince said that he would order the medical department to give her the best treatment. But the maid shouted that this could not be done, because she did not want to be removed from her position as the princess's servant. Divine replied that the girl should not break the kettle next to the child again, and she should take a break so as not to make a mistake again. In this case, the lady decided to quickly recover and return, and Charisse had better go and play. The princess tried to come up with a recipe for energy supplements by watching them work. But Dad sent his daughter to play, saying that a little later they would need to do other things. The girl was again given an offer for a huge price, which was more like a divorce. The lady thought that they needed this too, because they were trying to sell this service at a high price. Thinking that Charisse was generous, the girl agreed to watch the episode. Chamois ointment is expensive, but its effect is minimal. A lot of people use this ointment in the Castilian Empire. If she divides 2,160 hours by 24 hours in a day, it turns out to be 3 months. That is, within 3 months, you need to search the whole country and find people using poppy ointment and replace it with a new one. The next lazy day, the girl thought that she could make an ointment from calendula just by putting the calendula in oil. Calendula has been used as a medicine to treat blisters or affected areas of the skin and is ideal for making an ointment. The problem is that it only takes a month to make the oil. Getting the medicine also takes time. Approximately 93,000 people need to replace the medicine with a new one. Time was short, and it was impossible for a 4-year-old child to find 93,000 people within the remaining 2 months. Even if she was a member of the royal dynasty, it was impossible. The player understood that if she did nothing, the game would end. Sophie assumed that the lady was worried about Siami. But do not worry, because thanks to the gentleman, she was prescribed the best treatment. After the end of the treatment, she will be removed from work where it is possible to be poisoned by metals. The girl also said that as soon as the girl finishes, she needs to choose a beautiful dress, because the princess's 2 older brothers will arrive today. Charisse was worried that she might look strange. The twins returned and began to greet their father. The prince had been notified in advance by letter, but they had to be formally introduced before they greeted each other. The guys smiled, saying that they were the older brothers of the new sister. The girl should look as cute as possible, show herself as such, and make her allies. But the brothers did not appreciate the fact that the blonde was trying to be nice, thinking that she was not entirely right in her head. Ide grinned at the fact that Charisse included these actions in her calculations. Idasiz is a cunning fox, and in a short time he noticed that the girl was deliberately acting cute. Seeing his sister's reaction, he smiled and said that he was joking, because he immediately saw that the lady was his dear sister. The father said that it would be very good if the brothers played with the blonde, because she also needed time to get close to them. The blonde suggested that, apparently, Dad had already decided to adopt her, and he and his brother would take responsibility and take care of their little princess. When they finished greeting, Eid suggested heading to the secret base. The guy said that they alone have a secret base that adults don't know about. The girl began to ask questions, showing with all her appearance that she was very curious. But this was not a place where you could bring just anyone. The boys decided to use their magical powers to go to their destination. After being moved, the girl showed her weakness because she felt dizzy. The brother apologized for talking about it now, but decided to admit that they brought Charisse here because they wanted to ask something. The boys heard that their father's indigestion went away from the medicine the lady prepared, and that it helped relieve the night's fatigue. Therefore, they wanted to secretly ask the lady for something secret. The twins said that their grandfather's condition was very bad. He looks young, but he is over 200 years old. Sis is smart, so Eid proposed a deal. Red-Eyed asked if the girl still had many enemies in the imperial palace, and Alexandra can't stand her, and she has differences with Ashvi. For the most part, Jen, the girl, is an eyesore. Of course, it would be very disadvantageous for the little one to refuse to be surrounded by them alone, but if they are there, that's a different story. The brothers said that if the lady solved the problem with her grandfather, they would help her. If she had any problems in the future, they would solve them. Both sides would have weapons against them. If this is a task, then the system itself will help with treatment. So it will not be so difficult. It is not as difficult as an achievement task. The girl does not need to agree against her will if she cannot do it. The guys understood that she was only 4 years old. It was stupid to say anything to a child who could not cure the disease. The blonde can refuse. They are not so bad as to offend their sister for not agreeing. As expected, Gregis is the embodiment of justice. If he sides with Charisse, she will also need to be more active. Grandfather has red spots on his skin, itching and burning, pain and dizziness. This is not indigestion, but there is also something wrong with his stomach. The lady guessed that these were typical allergy symptoms. He tried holy water, but it was useless. Since dragon milk is too strong, such water does not work. The girl thought about the medicine that ordinary people use if they do not know what an allergy is. This information is also known to the twins. If this is an acute allergic reaction, then the most important thing is to find out what caused it. Bee stings, dust, or fur are possible. Suddenly, it dawned on the player that the emperor had a food allergy. She asked what grandfather had eaten in recent days, but most likely the secretaries know this, but they do not show it to just anyone. If there is an information leak, something unpleasant could happen. This is exactly what got into the emperor's mouth. However, if this is indeed a food allergy, his diet needs to be checked. The blonde said that if this is absolutely necessary, then there is one way, namely at the bottom of Shintober. He will bribe his grandfather's secretary and ask. The girl thought that Shintober was a very appetizing name. He looks like a man in the prime of his life, but in fact, he is an old man, more than 200 years old. Expensive herbs, mushrooms, elixirs. He is a fan of collecting and collects everything, even if he does not use it himself. That is why people who want to attract the emperor collector collect all sorts of rarities for a whole year and wait for the day of Shintober, when you can see the emperor despite his status. So this day is almost like a holiday. Shintober Day comes after the harvest festival, a month later. On this day, there is almost a festive atmosphere. So if you are relaxed, there is no better time to get information. The lady wondered how long it took to complete the calendula ointment. 1 month to make the ointment. If it is beneficial to the emperor's body, he will take it away. Then she can present a sample of the ointment to the emperor. She would like to give this ointment to commoners for free. They will definitely take the bait. For the imperial palace, this is an excellent opportunity to raise its reputation higher than that of the temple. The new medicine, tested by the emperor, will spread among people like on wings. Naturally, this will become a replacement for poppy ointment for people. And then the blonde will be able to complete the task. Noticing how the princess was thinking, the guy asked what happened, although it didn't happen. The stronger the allergy, the faster you need to take action. Even if a 4-year-old girl said that she could cure the emperor, no one would believe her. There was nothing left to do but wait for the day of Shintober. I'd asked if there was anything else that Sis wanted. In general, he thought that she would refuse at least once, but he was touched that the lady agreed so easily. The boy will give the red-eyed girl anything as a thank you. The girl got scared when she heard about some kind of gift. She said that there was one thing he wanted. But if they talk about what the princess wants right now, there was nothing but one thing. The blonde needed sunflower oil in large quantities. The old lady suggested that the lady was going to make a miracle cure. Everyone in the kitchen seems to be drinking the leftover plum tea she made. But if you work in the kitchen, you try a lot of spices and it's easy to get bloated. Nothing special, but it's good that it helped. The lady is glad that everyone liked it. The container for the butter was too heavy, and the old woman offered to bring it herself, namely to the backyard, because Charisse would do the manufacturing there. The weather was excellent, and in such weather the butter would cook well. The princess began to collect calendula flowers, but suddenly, Uncle Toby, who had already collected a whole basket, approached her. It was not for nothing that he was a gardener. That's why he collected so much. The guys from the garden decided to pay the girl a favor by also starting to collect flowers. The uncle began to apologize for the fact that they were laughing, although perhaps they wanted to help her because of His Highness. Everything was in order, because the lady is close to His Highness. Although they work for His Highness, they are just commoners and are looked down upon by the other royals. But the prince never oppressed workers because of their status. There are no such people in the royal family, except His Highness Prince Baikal. In gratitude for having received His Highness's blessing, then the princess should work hard for the sake of the divine prince. First, to prepare the medicine, you need to pour freshly harvested calendula into a sterilized jar. Second, add the orange blossoms to add a sweet scent. Add enough oil to cover all the calendula, and finally add the pine needles and seal the jar. If left like this for a month, it will become an oil that can be used as medicine. The girl is not preparing this for the royal family, but for Siami, she didn't tell her, so she doesn't know that it's for her. The blonde suddenly smiled and said that this oil was made for the servants, as a surprise. She was very surprised, because she did not use very good medicine when she was injured. She could not constantly go to the medical office and be treated. It would be good if the girl didn't get hurt again. But you can't know that in advance, so the red-eyed girl thought that it was at least worth using a good ointment. The lady did not understand how the princess could take care of the maid, saying that she would be her doormat for the rest of her life. But it was very strange because the blonde seriously couldn't calm her down. Siami worked alone. The princess is not one to entrust hard work, so everything is fine. Grandma is wondering what kind of medicine will come out of these calendula flowers. Last time, she prepared a delicious medicine called Ursulum, and then everyone was surprised. The lady noticed that the girl looked happy, very happy indeed. The servant suddenly asked if it would be easier to use fermentation magic like last time. But fermentation and long-term infusion are two different things. If you do it the same way as with plum syrup, the result will not be what she needs. But the blonde didn't really know what would happen if she used magic. Then the girl asked why not. Just in case, try to take a bottle and use a spell on it, to which she received the answer that it would be nice to test it on one bottle. The woman said the scene reminded her of her grandmother. The time when every home had a recipe for grandma's medicine was before it was forbidden to make medicine yourself. But from the time of her mother, the temple of Gafneus began to gain power. If the family made medicines, they began to be considered witches. Issuing licenses for the sale of medicines and medical activities is over. Good, however, treating them like witches is unacceptable. But the era of witch hunts is gradually becoming a thing of the past. People began to consider life without the wisdom of the past as natural. If this is activated, then the level of knowledge in medicine can be restored again. Baikal said that the surprise party is something magnificent, and even if it's not magnificent, it needs to be decorated colorfully. Sophia insisted that the adoption party only happens once, and this day must be made unforgettable. The man suggested that Charisse must like to party. It's also time to come to the two princes, whose scent lingers all the way to the palace. The guys couldn't just be late for their sister's party, so, of course, they prepared a gift. They had the largest number of gifts ever received by the princesses, most of them sent as a courtesy to flatter the prince. But he'll only take it in good humor today because it's for Charisse. And now, it's time for the main character to take the stage. His Highness made a sign with magic, to which the grandmother said that there was something that His Highness had prepared for the princess. Arriving at the place, the lady concluded that everything was very beautifully organized. The princes greeted their sister, saying that the child was very small, so he walked slowly. Eid said that the girl had a very beautiful wreath, but he had the same one for his brother. The redhead was surprised that even his father put on this flower decoration, and my brother actually suggested that the princess put a wreath on him. His Highness said that he did not like it, and he saw no point in wearing a wreath like his twin brother and father. Then, the girl said that she could give the jewelry to someone else, to which he became embarrassed, saying that he couldn't wear something so girly. In toga, angry, the guy took the wreath and shouted that she wanted to give it to him from the very beginning, so it belongs to him. Then the princess said that if you took it, you need to put it on, because those are the rules. Even if it was childish, the eldest still decided to wear it. Suddenly, the divine prince held Charisse in his arms, declaring that the adoption process was completely completed. And from that moment on, no matter what anyone says, this little girl is his daughter. It was a little less complete, but still a family. One thing seemed to be missing, which made Charisse wonder if they had a mom. Hearing the question, the brothers turned pale. If you look at the rum fantasy cliché, there is often no mother there, but the lady did not know whether she was alive or not. The guys laughed, saying that everything was fine with their mother. She and her father had simply divorced. Their mother is too bright a person to live only in the palace. Blessed with a brilliant intellect, she is the dean of the Specialized Gens Academy. The Specialized Academy is the academy that the twins attend. If the dean of the school is a genius among geniuses, then she is very smart. It was gorgeous, and the lady wanted to meet her. But Eid said that if her mother found out about her adoption, she might propose getting married again. Suddenly, His Highness said that he had not received the report card from Gurgis and assumed that he had hidden it. Today, the father will turn a blind eye to this, but he must refuse it at his desk until tomorrow. The man suggested that Charisse open some of the gifts. This is what it means to be a princess. The lady could not believe that this was all for her. It was hard for her all the time, because she had to worry about tasks and finishing the game. But at least for today, the blonde could calm down. She suddenly thought that if the game ended, she would lose everything. They suggest that she quickly use all the clues and buy new ones at an expensive price. But, nevertheless, since today is a joyful and good day, if a notification window appears at such a moment, there will definitely be something good there. But should she pretend that the girl fell for their trick and took advantage of the hint? It turns out that even if the girl loses, if there are only them, she will be able to start again from the desired stage. Charisse realized that she didn't have to start from the moment Alexandra stepped on her. However, just the entrance to the Dragon Street costs 1,000 gems. The treasure chest is at least 50 million. The blonde can go to Dragon Street in a month after completing the task with the ointment, by which time she will already get used to the feeling of a real family. His Highness said that he had just something to show the little princess. He led her into the garden, telling her that the names of the plum trees are Ilis and Gregis. About 12 years have passed since they were planted, so they are lower than other trees. When bearers of the surname Win are born, a tree is planted in this alley, usually planted by the father. And today, Baikal will plant a tree here. Salib handed the gentleman a tree, and the lady thought that if they used magic, they would have managed it in the blink of an eye. But it was so sincere that it made my heart beat faster. When the prince finished, he hung the Charisse sign, which was made of gold. He ordered it especially for this day. Suddenly, the man announced that although he was not her biological father, she had absolutely inherited the surname Win. He asked not to forget this and always wear it with pride. After all, now first of all, she is his daughter. In fact, the girl is not sure if she is a real princess. Alexandra looks more like a princess than she does. However, she could just be herself and go eat cherry cake. The cup flew to the floor, completely breaking. Alexandra was angry when she found out that His Highness had adopted this girl. The princess promised herself that she would repay her sister for her humiliation. She simply did not have the right to insult Alexandra Jen Castalia. The gifts took just as long to carry around as the gifts from the last harvest festival. The maids discussed that as soon as His Majesty was released, he put the princess under house arrest. As soon as this news spread, the nobles lined up. They must have started running in all directions. Today, they should have been quiet and not attracted the attention of the princess. Yesterday, the princess tore the forehead of one of the maids because she enraged her with her appearance. She asked Jessica about the name, and it was a pity that she had to do all the work. Alexandra reported that he took in a child who was worse than a beast, guarding the house, and apparently, during his imprisonment, His Majesty lost his mind. She asked how many gifts this freak had received, but the servant was afraid to tell that the one whom everyone mocked had already received more than 3,000 gifts. Jessica was very grateful that such a wife of a local writer like her could serve the princess herself, but she did not. I knew it would be so hard and scary. At the silence, the eldest tensed, asking whether they would tell her the number of gifts or not. Rusaya said that the gifts that were intended for Alexandra went to Princess Charisse, so she received a lot. In an instant, a boy entered the room, saying that he heard that there were more than 3,000 gifts there. Every time the servant looked at this child, she would get goosebumps. He walks silently, and the shadows from the candle flame begin to fluctuate. The boy said that they say that the pearl cage and the ruby birds that she so wanted went there too. And there were even rumors that Princess Charisse's biological father was a dragon. The girl got angry because she was sure that the blonde was deceiving everyone. Also, the blonde man mockingly said that the princess was illegally manufacturing medicine, and the previous high priest died 5 days ago, but a new one would appear soon. The lady decided that when he arrived at the palace to greet them, she would tell the high priest that she was illegally making medicine, and he would take care of it. Alexandra asked to go to the ministry and find out when the high priest would arrive. He was initially going to pay a welcoming visit there, but asked to excuse himself since he had not prepared a gift. The girl felt sorry for this blessed one, who didn't even have parents, so she left her here, and she decided to answer her gratitude with revenge. The villainess asked to contact Genovia on the day of Shintober. Instead of presenting something, she would turn their gaze to Charisse. A month later, the girl convinced Gurgis that it would be mortally dangerous if he did not show her his magical pet. Shintober is just a few days away, and should he stop showing off his pet for a while? Perhaps His Majesty the Emperor is the real owner of the Joker rabbit. Now that the calendula-infused oil should be ready, now it's time to slowly complete the task. The princess appeared in the kitchen, and just when everything was ready, there was enough to distribute the ointment to all the courtiers of the palace. The girl decided to smell it. If you add only calendula, the smell will not be very good, but the aroma is very pleasant, thanks to the pine needles and oranges. Now, this needed to be mixed together with the wax. Also add a little geranium so that the medicine is completely ready. It would be good to know how effective this medicine is. Fraudsters are those who sell poppy ointments containing opiates, saying that it is a medicine blessed by the gods. The system again began offering the girl the opportunity to buy clues with precious stones. She made her choice to use everything at once. Even though Dad was busy, the child really wanted to spend time with him. In the Palace of 100 Nights, there is a wizard who will do a little magic here and there. The man said that if his daughter needed magic in the future, she could call him. But, unfortunately, today there was a very important meeting and His Highness is busy. Suddenly, he asked if Cherie didn't like seeing her dad often. But she didn't say that. The father felt the touching gaze of his assistants on him. Baikal asked to give him 10 minutes and prepare everything while he dealt with his daughter. He noticed the ointments she was talking about. The lady was able to use the lens to confirm the effectiveness of the medicine by purchasing additional options. The girl handed one jar to Siami. The blonde will make it again and give it to her. This ointment can be used for a year. For distribution to the public, it would be a good idea to indicate the expiration date on the packaging. The princess was awarded 100 million stones for completing this task. Now, the little lady had the opportunity to activate the treasure chest. Suddenly, the man said that it was time for him to go, because Cherie herself said that he looks good when he works. He also said that if she needed something or was curious about something, she could always call Dad. Realizing that this was Charisse's chance, she ran up to him and said that she was curious about something, namely, how she could use magic. She wanted to use magic coolly like Dad. She had been interested in this for a long time, and she would like to ask about it. If the lady can use magic, then she will be able to complete the task faster. Baikal was surprised that his daughter wanted to learn magic. He said that the girl can, because her dragon heart will help her. She may not be able to use complex magic, but if she learns to draw a magic circle, then everything will work out. Now Odysseus has a break for a nap. If you go to the ministry now, you can just make it in time for him to wake up. The prince said that his son is much more authoritative in magical circles than he is. Perhaps he will be able to tell which magic circle is suitable for the princess, or rather, teach her how to use magic circles so as not to put too much strain on her body. If the blonde learns magic and goes to Dragon Street, it would be perfect timing. The brother said that he also had something to do, since there was no accompanying knight, so the red-haired one would go with her. Then she asked when she would have a knight, to which she received the answer that usually, at 10 years old, until then, her life was safe. Until then, her brother will take care of her. The guy put the girl in the carriage, but did not sit opposite her, because he did not want this little girl to fall out of the carriage. When the guys arrived, the girl was woken up, and she looked out the window, surprised at how huge the Ministry of Foreign Affairs was. The girl suddenly asked why her brother started pretending to be cool. To this, he replied that this should always be done when you're outside, and not in the palace. Then the lady said that he should have told her about this in advance. The blonde thanked the teachers and servants for taking care of her brothers. As a gift, she brought a special ointment that she made herself, which can be spread on wounds, and it also smells very tasty. The princess suddenly wondered whether she should find her supporters here. Charisse used her sweetness to charm all the workers with her cute appearance. It was a success, because just by looking at her, everyone already felt a surge of energy. One girl said that after spending a lot of time only with people like Odysseus, and then meeting Charisse, the world seems to light up. Of course, outwardly, her brother also illuminated the world. But his character makes you feel darkness. Therefore, the blonde was asked to come to the ministry more often. Suddenly, an irritated Odysseus appeared, who said that it was too noisy here, although he asked to be quieter during the rest. In an instant, the girl ran up to her brother and hugged him. She said that she wanted to learn magic, and her brother could help with this. The brothers invited Charisse to come into their room, but she only gave her the ring on a chain that her father asked him to give them. The blonde asked his sister to wear this jewelry. It turns out that the twin cleverly realized that his father was going to monitor them through the necklace. Meanwhile, the man watched his child, thinking about how cute she was. This surveillance distracted everyone from the meeting, so the old man asked why. If he was so worried about the girl, the prince let her go, to which he replied that Charisse said that Dad looked coolest when he was working. Usually, the divine is focused 100%, but today he was on pins and needles, worrying about what would happen if his daughter stumbled. The prince still secretly harbors affection for Kina, but he said that he regrets. Suddenly, the man saw a child pretend to be sick and fall in front of Charisse. Baikal had a bad feeling, so he decided that he would check what was happening there. What was strange was that no one could find information about such a boy. The lady studied magic, learning that each magic circle has its own structure, so the study of magic circles is also called understanding people. Magic originated from the dragon, so anyone, in theory, can become a magician. Of all the elements, the girl chose the wind, be it a weak breeze, a strong wind, or a typhoon. Age showed that all this is possible because magic is a figment of the imagination, and this should not be forgotten. The princess decided to thank her brother and went to hug, but the blonde asked why she hugs anyone. The player noticed that Gergis was always sleeping. The elder let the child go for a walk, on the condition that she did not leave the palace. The redhead asked what was wrong with the lady wanting to hug him, but the blonde just wanted to warn her not to hug just anyone. This kind of touch is ideal for using poison. He suddenly asked how it happened that Dad died. In the Vatican, which governs the temples, while all the believers were worshipping Hafna and other gods, the Pope, their head, died under mysterious circumstances. He thought that his father would die because he would become very old, but it was too fast, as if they were deliberately trying to change the head. On the day of the Grand Pope's death, a child of 8 years old, one of those he saw in the temple, was appointed as the new pope, and he would most likely propose to Charisse. An 8-year-old child was chosen as the new pope, and 10 years later he would be sacrificed to the gods. The pope who sacrifices himself by praying for the well-being of the empire has the right to marry one of the princesses. Being the pope's wife is quite prestigious, enough that they would try to poison her. And if Charisse becomes the pope's wife, her status will definitely help the others win. But Gergis promised that he would not allow this to happen. There are few girls among the 5 children of the new generation. In the Shveen faction, there are Alexandra and Lizabelle, but the second is not a princess. Although the blood of the royal family flowed through the ancestors, she was still a member of the Duke of Origins family. The problem is Alexandra, Charisse, and Helga. Among the 3 of them, only Charisse is not the heir to the throne. The guy said he knows someone will take his little sister, but they will protect Charisse. But Aid reminded his brother that the guy wanted to be the eldest because he didn't want to play with her. But for him, that was in the past. In any case, soon there will be a holiday on the occasion of the appointment of the new pope. The pope will come in person. The brothers understood that if their dad died, then a war would begin. After all, there were many contenders for the role of dad. If one died, another would take the post. But there was no need to worry. If diplomacy didn't work, it would be Gergis's turn. But the blonde understood that His Majesty the Emperor would start a war with Saint Sed. The eldest had a special ability that allowed him to see what he wanted, even through walls. He went, asking his brother to take care of himself and not let the rat slip into the Vatican. So, diplomacy. They cannot decide otherwise. But the redhead also had to be careful, because the guy couldn't be with him all the time. While walking, the girl realized that she heard something, namely, a boy who was breathing languidly and heavily, appearing not to be in the best condition. Charisse immediately noticed that the guy was breathing too quickly, asking him to breathe slowly through his nose. It was necessary to help him calm his breathing, so the princess came up to him, hugging him to her. She miraculously found herself with a paper bag, which she pressed against the stranger's face. The boy turned out to be okay, but this condition was strange. He approached the lady, saying that she had raspberry-colored eyes, suggesting that she was a relative of the emperor. Pavel thanked Princess Charisse for her help. He thought that there was magic in that paper bag, but in fact, hyperventilation is caused by the leakage of carbon dioxide from the arteries. So if you breathe into a paper bag that absorbs carbon dioxide, a person will be able to breathe normally again. But the girl could not tell that. So how in this world no one will understand her? Silver reported that the girl had a cricket on her head, which horrified her. After she screamed, the guy said that he was no longer there. But if he returned, he would catch him. The blonde thanked the stranger, comparing him to an angel. Suddenly, the older brother grabbed the lady by the scruff of the neck, asking who this guy was and what he was doing with his little sister. He assumed the guy was trying to get attention, but the blonde knew that if the redhead scared him, the hyperventilation might return. She asked if he was okay, or if something hurt. The guy was touched by the fact that the princess was worried about him, despite the fact that he was a stranger and unfamiliar to her. The elder brother instantly stated that Charisse is kind to everyone and protects everyone who is in danger, so he can make mistakes. The red-haired man took the girl away from a man she did not know, and he said that he would never forget her kindness. Gergis turned and gestured that if he met his sister, he would deal with him. At this, the pretender only laughed, realizing what kind of princess Charisse was. He called her the little creature who was tormenting Princess Alexandra. But he liked how small and fragile she was. If not for the agreement, he would have taken her straight to his mansion. Pavel came to find out when the new pope would come, but found something more interesting. Pavel Aximus is a demon, the count of the demon kingdom, and the leader of the demon region. For some reason, currently serving Alexandra under contract, demons can only pass through the gate and transfer their power to a human if they make a formal contract. Otherwise, a number of restrictions are imposed on them. The guy concluded that the air in the human world is so dirty that it is difficult to withstand. Despite the fact that the contract is urgent, he never thought that this would happen. Pavel, thanks to this, I met this little girl. The demon made a paper airplane and gave it a new life, ordering it to become his eyes and follow that child. Today, a lot happened. The lady was in the center and met a handsome boy named Pavel. This was her chance to go to the store on Dragon Street. The game can end at any moment, so you need to save your progress. If the sleepers notice that the player is not in bed, she will apologize, saying that she was in the closet. Charisse decided to buy a key to go outside to the Dragon store. To enter Dragon Street, she needed to draw a heart in the air. She arrived at the right place that she had always wanted to visit. One man offered to put 100 stones in front of him and take out the object. There were all sorts of things. A cheap lottery machine for getting rid of useless items, but usually useless or expensive items come out. The lady said she wanted to try it. She wanted the most valuable item, the dragon rod, an item that will do what you want when you hit it on the ground, just like a goblin's staff, can be used 100 times. So many people waste their stones here. Now everything is different. Before, the princess was always unlucky, but now it seems that luck is on her side. But suddenly, the fool remembered that she was a complete loser in the lottery. The girl bought everything she needed, and now all she needed was conservation darts. Entering the shop, the dragon was surprised that a man came to her. She said that she had not seen people in her home for a very long time. Dragons are picky about etiquette. In particular, respect for elders is a priority. The blonde approached the cash register and said that she would like to buy a gift for her grandfather, so she came to this store. The girl was touched, saying that she would like her grandchildren to be the same. The lady looked at everything in the store, noticing strange drugs. There were even antihistamines here. The princess understood that if she showed the seller that she was interested in some product, he could sell it at an inflated price. So the girl only wanted to buy save darts, but she couldn't reach them because she was too small. The merchant suddenly asked why Charisse did not use magic. She came here because she had the heart of a dragon. In any case, she belongs to the evolving race. The dragons call the imperial family an evolving race. The girl looked the younger one in the eyes, saying that thanks to her, she saw something interesting, so she would help her this time. Using magic, the dragon made the princess float in the air, dropping her slippers. All the goods on the top shelves were very expensive, but the girl understood that only with this she could complete a bunch of missions. But the conservation darts cost about 50 million, and she asked if a discount was possible. The princess wanted to buy an expensive product for 4,000 stones. The lady promised to do anything for this, because she really needed to buy gifts for daddy and brothers. The woman decided to give her a box of items that were not for sale as gifts. She was given digestive medication and antihistamine tablets. In an instant, the wall in the trading store cracked. A guy stood on the threshold, and the seller asked what he was doing in front of her precious store. The brown-haired man fell to the floor, saying the princess's name. Only he called Charisse not by her name in her game, but by what her name was in real life. The child rushed to the stranger, asking if he was okay. Unfortunately, the lady didn't hear it right. The character from the game knew her real name. She didn't notice, but when he smiled, he looked very sweet. But the wanderer was in serious condition, and the princess must immediately take care of him. The dragon correctly noticed that the guy had an unbearable smell. This boy smelled of blood, and also of sacrifice, although it should not be in such a sacred place. The lady came on a mission to save him, but the player would have done it without him. First, his wounds had to be disinfected, and then stop the bleeding, to bandage everything properly afterwards. The girl said that it is difficult to do this with small hands, and she would like to help her. The redhead also noticed that she was helping the girl only so that this terrible stench would go away. It hurt the victim when the hands touched him, but it was worth being patient. In an instant, this guy began to grow up, taking on the appearance of a man. These wounds were constantly opening, as if someone was attacking him. Apparently, this strange guy was from the future. While he was traveling back in time, something went wrong. Whatever caused his body to merge with him from this time, what happens to his body in the future affects his body in the present. Plus, his healing magic doesn't work on him. The merchant revealed that if it was related to some god, the dragon's power would not have any effect on him, to which Cherry asked if there was any doctor who could take care of him. If the royal family who owns the dragon heart can heal on their own, the dragons can do the same. Besides, this boy came here to ask the dragon for help. Or maybe he came to this shop to see the little lady. Hearing pitiful moans of pain, the girl decided that she needed to try on the bandages again. But suddenly, he became small again, grabbing the lady's hand, saying that he had finally found the one he had been looking for so long. Red Eyes asked if he really had nowhere to go, asking where his home was and what happened to him. The brown-haired man fell to the ground again, but was still breathing, which was a complete relief. Although he was better, the heroine could not leave him. Therefore, she dragged him to the palace and hid him in the closet. Although the girl does not know who it is, it seems that he knows her from the future. The blonde suggested that the time traveler could become her friend. When he wakes up, the princess will definitely ask a lot of questions. While the girl was sleeping, the victim sat next to her, saying that since her childhood, she had the habit of helping everyone. He said that he came here to find her. He also added that the future without a princess is the same hell. Even though he wants to stay here longer, he must go. The guy put a flower near her, hoping that she would remember him when she saw the gift. The maid entered the room, noticing that the lady was still sleeping. The next morning, the girl was glad that she would finally be able to meet her grandfather. She should shine when she entered the imperial palace. The princess wondered that the boy who was injured suddenly disappeared. But how did he know that she was outside the dragon store? Perhaps Cherry from the future told him about this place. The blonde wouldn't tell anyone, so they were very good friends. But if he came here, then he must have a reason for it. If the girl travels through time, perhaps they will meet someday. Dresses were prepared for the blonde from all clothing stores in the capital. The first outfit was an elegant blue dress with a sapphire tiara. Next up was a striking floral dress that gives off a fresh feel. But the lady decided to wear a pink fluffy dress with a wreath. In an instant, the twins appeared and announced that it was time for them to go. Noticing that the lady was eating, the brother got angry, but he was asked to wipe his sister's mouth. But when he began to pretend to be a king, the girl simply asked Ida about it. The maids noticed that the princes were becoming friendlier, and this was the first time they had seen something like this according to the rules. They were so cold that it was difficult to approach them. The princess is so charming, so it is natural that the princes fell under her spell. A few days ago, Charisse asked Sophia to make her a first aid purse. In the carriage, the blonde asked why the brothers were not carrying anything for the emperor, but they replied that there was nothing to worry about, because they had prepared something incredible. The girl knew that they were going to the imperial palace, but she had no idea that it was so beautiful. She would like to taste it and find out if everything is made of gold. The brothers said that they would now go to the banquet hall, and the lady could sit with them. Ide smiled and invited his sister to take their hand. She was very surprised when they both suddenly extended their hands. The twins said that someone felt unwell around their grandfather. Therefore, she thinks it was a good idea to wear a veil. The lady put it on, not because she was scared, but now she is nervous. In the end, the princess will see the man who fought the dragon himself. He is neither human nor dragon, but he has lived for hundreds of years. Everyone talks about the greatness of the emperor, but if Charisse were in his place, she would live in a world where she lost her loved ones. The lady would definitely feel lonely. The arrival of the children was immediately announced throughout the palace. The blonde did not expect a lesser celebration in the imperial palace, but everything was too elegant. The red-eyed girl suddenly noticed that one guy at the table was looking at her suspiciously. It felt like he was going to drill a hole in the girl with that look. But for some reason, the brothers began to ignore the plump boy, despite the fact that he was shouting at Gurgis. The player played as Gurgis most often, so she thought she knew everything about him, but he is more sarcastic than she thought. The stranger said that the older brother should be grateful that someone like him greeted him. Recently, he heard that a useful person had come to their house. The boy remembered their sister, the child who was Alexandra's toy. He shouted that their father seemed crazy, and besides, he made this girl his daughter. The guy got punched in the face when he said that stupidity is contagious. Red told him to at least try to say something about his sister, but the child only shouted that Gurgis had always been arrogant, but he was closer than him in the line of succession to the throne. Hearing this, the child said that this boy was just an idiot. To this, he shouted that Charisse was just a piece of garbage that was spoiling the Wynn family. Eid said that he understands that his brother is afraid now because he might be judged, but that doesn't mean he can talk like that about his sister. The blonde explained that this has nothing to do with the fact that Charisse is important to him. Even if he didn't say this, he still shouldn't treat her like that. As a member of the family, it's not normal that he communicates with his sister like that. Fatty replied that this useless thing would not help Eid ascend the throne. Red Eyes told him a story about a nobleman who bought an invention from a commoner for a couple of coins. This artifact can be used in the evolution of the powers of members of the imperial family, and recently, an artifact in his name has also been registered with the Ministry of Magic. Come to think of it, this guy is ruining the Wynn name. The prince hopes that the plump one will stop being useless as he always was, but at least he doesn't want to see him next to them. The guy said that His Majesty would come soon, so it was worth taking your seats. After this conversation, the girl decided that she should never provoke Idsis. It was good that he was her brother, but it was touching, because the princess would never have thought that he would support her so much. He's just so calculating, so the lady thought he wouldn't get involved in this, but he got in specifically to protect the princess. Finally, their father, the Emperor of Castalia, arrived. The lady was so short that she could not see his face in the crowd. The man ordered everyone to sit down, and this was a chance for the blonde to see her grandfather. Wynn couldn't believe that this handsome man was over 100 years old. Suddenly, the lady learned from the system that grandfather was allergic to peanuts and had been eating them since he was 3 years old. And if he had been a normal person, he would have died already. The girl's task was to simply give him antihistamine tablets. Looking at the emperor, the princess realized that he was unlikely to believe the girl's words. One old man approached His Majesty with the fact that he brought an item from the distant Republic of Barik, at the other end of the ocean. It is called the Savior Ginger. It is a national treasure. If you eat it, you cannot get sick and not grow old. The girl immediately realized that he was a fraudster, because it was ordinary ginger. For an obvious lie, the servants took the man away, inviting the next one. Thus, the grandfather quickly checked whether the gifts were real and approved them or not. When he likes the gift, the person is given a check. Suddenly, that same chubby boy began to make eyes at his grandfather, asking him to accept his gift. Finally, it was Win's turn. Today, the guys wanted to give Grandpa something that he had never been given before. As it turned out, Charisse Win Castalia was his gift. Perhaps this girl can help with some small problems, so the brothers wanted to give this opportunity to their grandfather. Since this happened, the lady realized that there was no turning back. She had to get her grandfather's approval. The girl went to her grandfather and said that she would like to offer her services as a pharmacist. Simply put, the blonde is the one who could cure the emperor. Calling a man by name was a condition for access to the mission. The princess will be able to pay off the debt faster than she thought. If she does everything right, she will very soon take her cats away. Suddenly, everyone screamed. No one thought that she was a doctor. Everyone said that the pathetic girl couldn't do anything, and it was clear that this girl was not only an idiot, but also crazy. But the emperor deftly shut everyone up by asking them to take the princess away. He suddenly asked if Cherry was ready to take responsibility for her words. Making a wise decision, the emperor said that the lady could be useful. But Gergis understood that the lady was going to take responsibility if he was not poisoned. The girl asked her brother not to worry, because there was no point in doubting her. But the guy said that she was the size of a bean, and for some reason, she was not afraid at all. Red said that grandfather is very strict. I'd said that their little sister knows something from the dragon. By the way, there are more missions than the princess thought. The first was to distribute the ointment. The second was to give the emperor the appropriate prescription for peanut allergies. And third, offer the emperor a drink other than beer. Rewards, 100 billion, 1,100 million stones. If you complete everything, you can get more than 200 million stones. She began to think about what drink she could quickly prepare, and remembered that she had plum extract. Grandfather drank a lot of alcohol, but he never drank plum wine. She could not believe that the 4-year-old princess had found a solution to this problem. The man said that she was not a healer, but the princess clearly said that she was. But they had no choice but to listen to what she had to say. But the servant said that they should suspect this 4-year-old princess. The doctor was informed that Cherry said that she received knowledge from the dragon in a dream. The blonde opened the doors, shouting for them to tell her everything to her face. The grandfather stated that he did not require the presence of Charisse Win Castalia. To get out of it, the lady said that she was just interested in the emperor's condition, hoping that it would work. Gray-haired ordered to feel at home, and also suggesting that his grandson spoke about his symptoms and asked to narrate his decision. The blonde man provided his sister with information about his grandfather's diet, but the doctor did not understand what she could do with her diet. In the eyes of the man, the girl looked like a fool who was playing doctor, and if the princess were in his place, she would have thought the same. But looking at the list, the red-eyed girl realized that the entire diet included peanuts, even desserts, and late-night snacks. The lady said that over the past few years, he has become a peanut lover, and every fall, his symptoms get worse. Judging by the redness on his neck, Grandpa also has symptoms of acne. From the age of 3, His Majesty loved peanuts and macadamia nuts. The girl said that peanuts are like poison for grandfather, and he should not eat them. There are foods that act as poison for some people. In this case, the emperor is allergic to peanuts. The man instantly realized that no one had poisoned him. The blonde said that there were foods that acted like poison on some people, but no one could understand how she knew this. To which the princess said that she had a dream. In this dream, the nameless dragon told her about it. It seems His Majesty believed it. The emperor's physician announced that he would order peanuts to be removed from all food. The lady thought and handed the grandfather some pills that might make him feel better. Looking at the presented gift, Win asked where she got this drug from, because he was unlikely to believe that a dragon brought it to her. At that second, the girl realized that he did not fully believe her. She urgently needed to say something truthful. Everything will be fine. She knew that this would happen and was prepared. A white dragon stood in front of the blonde, asking her what she was doing here, but she replied that her grandfather was sick. He gave her the pills and told her how to use them. In general, it was true that the princess received them from the dragon. The servant did not think that the girl had given the master something dangerous, but it was necessary to split the tablet in half and give the other half to another. The emperor stated that this girl was able to understand the root of his problem and drank the drug. But the lady said that grandfather needed to give up not only nuts, but also beer. Cherry has prepared a medicinal liqueur that will be better than beer. The man was told that his granddaughter had recently come up with something using calendula. To be honest, he really felt better. The temperature subsided, and the malaise went away. The doctor immediately apologized for laughing at the princess. His name was Murden, and he was a relative of Uncle Solip, or rather a cousin. The lady thought that medical licenses were only issued to churches, which was true. The man had to urgently graduate from the medical academy in order to pass the exam. But he has a slightly different situation. First, he studied with his teacher, and then he graduated from the academy earlier. The girl decided that when she grew up, she wanted to study as Dr. Murden. Allergy symptoms have been fully studied since 1960, but this game is based on the Middle Ages, where allergies were still unknown. When people eat shrimp or crab and then say they don't feel well, it's because they also have an allergy. She could not tell more, because her task is to carry out missions and not to share stories. The blonde also asked why people use poppy ointment as medicine. People use ointment when it is completely safe, and her maid's medicine uses it to heal wounds. That's why Cherise worked hard to create a new calendula ointment. The brother confirmed that she spent a lot of time making it. The kitchen staff confirmed that it helps with burns and other wounds. His younger sister's skills will be needed by people in the future. He asked if they weren't interested in where the princess's skills would go next. It doesn't matter what the progress was. What matters is the excellent result she showed today. Red Eyes stated that she wants, like her brothers, to serve the people and the empire. She first thought of asking Itis to help her get into the medical department, but now she doesn't need his help. The temple probably won't like her hanging around there, but if they distribute the ointment, the residents will feel a lot better, and it was the fastest way to complete the mission. Besides, she doesn't have to worry. If anyone wants to harm her, her brothers will protect her. The emperor asked to help the princess, do some research on allergies based on what she said, and then write the information into a book. The lady told the maids that she showed the grandfather the ointment she made, and he ordered the physician Murden to write a book based on what she said. The girl felt uncomfortable when her hair got into her face, but now she has a headband. Finally, the divine prince appeared in the room, and the girl climbed in to hug her. She said that she was not the least bit afraid, and did not understand why everyone was afraid of the emperor. Lady said Grandpa seemed to be feeling lonely, because this is a person who has nothing beautiful left in this world. Baikal said her mother said the same thing. The princess suddenly asked her dad to tell her about her mom, but he said that the child needed to sleep, but she would fall asleep if her father told her a story. Kina was just as stubborn as Cherry, always insisting on doing what she wanted. She liked to ride a horse, once they rode together on the same horse. Now, the blonde wanted to learn how to ride a horse. At this point, it will be a little difficult for the child, so he will teach her when the lady is a little older. Dad will teach her, or ask Gurgis to do it. Although, the girl will not fall if she rides with a magical pet, which is an ordinary horse. Gurgis's magical pet turned out to be a lion. The prince said that no matter what stood in Cherise's way, she could do whatever she wanted, and she should never forget that he was on her side. The Castalia Empire has 28 gods, among them the most powerful goddess of faith and love, Hafna. The Pope, who rules all the gods and temples, says that he is the reincarnation of Hafna. In the solid monastery of Hafna, there is a boy of 8 years old. This boy was chosen to be Pope and will die before he becomes an adult. The only reason this stupid tradition continues is because they think this guy isn't human. In the basement of the temple, there is a unicorn that has been locked away for 100 years. The unicorn's blood is extremely poisonous and can curse people. The temple forces children to drink this blood, and who manages to survive thanks to an unknown force that appears when he is on the verge of death, becomes a dad. The traveler did not want to return to this age, but in order to change the future, he had to appear before this man approached Cherry. It's okay that the next pope is imprisoned in such a place. The men in white discussed that the pope is a puppet after all, He is just a tool they call God's miracle to collect donations. The medic will take care of the rest. He must tell the high priest that this man is thinking about unnecessary things. He entered the room, saying that if he had finished his meal, then it was time to listen to yesterday's prayer. But he noticed that the guy was calm, although the day before yesterday he was shaking, fearing for his life. He continued to have nightmares and refused to accept the position of pope. Dad approached the guy and asked if he would really just stand there. Pavel promised that he would change this world so that the future would be with Charisse, no matter what the cost. The boy was looking forward to their next meeting. In this beautiful blue sky, a beautiful red horse flew across the cold air. Seriously speaking, this is a lion. And here is the girl, who is trembling with fear, holding on to her brother. She asked to stop because she was scared. Sophia shouted that the prince had gone too far. Unlike princes, the princess is very fragile, and he should take care of her with trepidation. But that's not how they ride lions, although the lady herself said that she wanted to learn. The guy didn't want his sister to cry. He just wanted to show how fun it is to ride lions. Due to the blonde's ignorance, the redhead began to apologize and say that he wouldn't do it again. The girl said that if her brother fulfills 10 of her wishes, she will forgive him. After all, he's a good kid. Just because she became his sister doesn't mean he has to play with her. When the princess played the role of Gergis, the most important thing was to make sure that Gergis himself wanted it. This is why Gergis does not want to become emperor. Most likely his main task is to work hard to help Idsis ascend to the throne. But even after the day of Shintober, Gergis's behavior did not change. Now, when his gaze is directed at her, the guy may think that she is a threat. The lady suddenly asked why her brother was so kind to her. The boy replied that she should call him by his name, and besides, he should have a reason to be kind to his little sister. Then the girl asked what he would do if she wanted to become an empress. Most likely, the third mission was for her to become empress, and the redhead was surprised that the child was interested in the throne, but it seemed like he had no choice. The blonde thought he had no choice but to get rid of her. But the prince said that since his younger sister wants to become empress, he must somehow make her wish come true. And the easiest thing is to remove everyone except Ida and her. What she heard is true. A magical pet is like its owner. Well, after all, they get a piece of his soul from the very beginning. The lady thanked the lion named Dew for allowing him to ride. She thinks it would be great to have such a big pet like him. When Cherry was born, she was supposed to have a pet, but it disappeared when she appeared in this body. Wynn asked what would happen if a pet lost its owner. Then the person would die along with the owner. Since each familiar has a piece of the soul of its owner, then they are together until death. The lady would like to see her cat now as her magical pet. It was getting colder every time, and it was already too late, so the maid had to quickly return to the room. Suddenly, the girl notices something very strange and frightening. This path, which connects the forest and the imperial palace, is said by many to be a cursed forest. A few minutes earlier, the guy was shouting at the Wynn brothers that they were seriously accepting this useless girl into their family. Eid reported that he would not like to have Vassal, the man who said his father was crazy, but he didn't think that his brother would become emperor, because he wouldn't allow it. The blonde ordered, until the next skills assessment, to give up and bow his head. Bart, it was even hard to breathe from the flow of magic. It won't hang his hands while the chubby one says he's a monster. Therefore, after throwing him to the ground, the boy said that he should never have said that Charisse was useless. It was not too late to ask his sister for forgiveness. The bully agreed to do it because he was scared. Grozny recorded their entire dialogue, so he will not be able to deceive him. Tomorrow, he will have to apologize forever until Cherry forgives him. Of course, the brothers hoped that the guy would come not empty-handed, but with a gift. It wasn't fair. The younger one could understand why the twins were so strong. But suddenly, someone gave him a blue ball, which he had to eat to get what he wants. But in return, when the guy dies, he gives his soul to the stranger. The demon knew that this was a stupid person, thanks to whom he was not so bored. I didn't look very good. He was probably feeling dizzy again. The dragon's heart throbbed, intense heat entering his head and causing his mind to lose control. But it is tolerable. It happens because there is a lot of strength in his young body. But Gergis asked not to lie, because it was clear from his brother that he was not feeling well. As the redhead said, they should take it one step at a time without killing anyone, because that's the human thing to do. Their father was not in the palace today, They thought he was trying to find out what he saw before he was imprisoned without their grandfather knowing. To become an emperor, the blonde had to be rational and objective. After all, he had to evaluate how much power and influence he had in the imperial family. Aid is sure that his mother would agree with him, because for her, the one who becomes the emperor must have such qualities. People don't like tyrants. Although he had to spend a lot of time to take such a position on the peaceful side, if the red-eyed one became a tyrant, then most likely there would be a revolution. This is already an established truth. Tyranny is stupid, so after he seriously thought about it, he began to always smile in order to please everyone. The prince wondered if his younger sister noticed this. Although the blonde always comes earlier, she always ignores him and goes to hug Gergis. She calls him Big Brother, while Ida, just Brother. He is a little upset, but this is just because she is kinder to Gergis. He is a little sad, which surprised him very much. For such a cold person, it was strange to feel sadness and realize it. The boy was very tired of listening to how his little sister treated him and his brother differently. What saved him was that at this age, the boy could block sounds with magic. Previously, when the red-eyed man could not use this spell, he would kill the one making the sound. His mother did not scold him. She was the same as him, since Gergis has good eyesight and Itzis has excellent hearing. Unlike his eyesight, the boy's hearing was very sensitive. He dreamed of killing everything that made sound. At one point, the mother asked to imitate the actions of her brother. Precisely because Gergis always makes the right decisions, the blonde's actions must be left to the objective individual and rational judgment. There was one thing that the prince should not forget. They are family, and protecting family is the minimum rule he must follow as a person becoming an individual. If you remember this, you will never turn into a monster. Cherise is a stupid little star who needs to be protected, so Eid will never hurt his sister. Instantly, my brother was woken up by his sister, who was watching him sleep. My sister dressed up and showed her images to Ida, but he said that her outfit was too light. They tried on a bunch of dresses, at which the girl got angry and asked what her brother would advise her. Alexandra often uses gold, and raspberry would suit the lady as a contrast. The blonde took this more seriously than the princess thought. The girl hugged him, thanking him for his advice and help. The prince did not expect a hug, so he was embarrassed to pat her on the back. Eid asked if all the princess's dresses were so light, but now a coat was being made for them. Soon they will go hunting for Aemons, so the servants will have to sew comfortable clothes for hunting. This is the custom. All members of the imperial family go hunting on the first day of the new coronation. Aemon is a type of snake that shoots fire from its mouth, large enough to burn down a house. In the north of Castalia, near the Empire of Babylonia, there is a door from which these creatures appear. At this time, they come to the human world to take refuge in a cool place. Despite the fact that the Aemon family not only wounds people, but also eats them, the brother thought they were funny. Edis and Gergis are very strong, so fighting Amonami will not be difficult. While Cherry always died at this stage of the game, immediately after the start of the battle. Then, it will be too dangerous, so the lady will not be able to leave the camp, since she must definitely come. This year, the blonde will try to finish early. The princess began to worry that she was distracting her brother. Although they had already chosen an outfit, he was still with her. The prince said that he just wanted to see the girl in this outfit, and he liked it, which his sister thought was cute. In this case, Prince Win Castalia promised to do so in the future. He seemed to be in a good mood, and the blonde decided to take advantage of this and ask him about his familiar. But everything turned out to be surprisingly simple, because Eid didn't mind showing off his pet. His pet turned out to be a white flying squirrel. The girl did not believe that this cute creature was part of Idzis's soul. Vayu is small, but she can fly if she jumps from a high place. The appearance of a familiar is a secret, so it is impossible for the servants to see it. It is not difficult for him to show it to his sister, but it is better that he does not show it to others. It's normal that he wants to be one step ahead in the battle for the throne. After all, he is probably very caring with other members of the imperial family. View is a flying squirrel, so he can send her to find out important information, namely, so he can't show it to anyone. The lady wanted to say hello to the squirrel, but she started sneezing because the climate was getting colder, and Sophia said that it would snow. Winter in Castalia begins early. At the end of November, the climate changes quickly, and in the first days of December, snow already falls. The The winter is very long, and the brother will order warm clothes to be made for his sister. That is why the whole world eagerly awaits plum flowers, as a sign that winter has come. Idzis doesn't like the noise. If she's not mistaken, in the game he said that he loves winter because it's calm at this time of year. Charisse, on the other hand, liked spring and summer. But suddenly, the guy said that he didn't tell the girl that he loved winter. When the princess tried to justify herself, someone knocked on the door just in time. The maid reported that Prince Zenobia had arrived. The blonde said that he could be allowed to enter. She didn't know what would happen, but she understood that first, she needed to send Shami and Hana out. She and her brother assumed that he had come to apologize, but his appearance, like a zombie, was strange. The boy asked, pretending as if he knew nothing why he had come. Charisse noticed that the offender was somewhat pale. Suddenly, he began to choke, showing symptoms of hyperventilation. Realizing that his condition was not okay, the lady brought her older brother into consideration. But he simply grabbed the girl by the back, while the plump one shouted that he would become the next emperor. Sensing danger, the red-eyed one threw the blonde to the side with one movement of his hand. To prevent her sister from getting hurt, the squirrel took the blow on herself, using her stomach as a pillow. The enemy had visible veins on his forehead and continued to claim that he would become emperor. Ad knew this brother's desire very well, but his behavior was very different from yesterday. Angered, Win declared that whoever stood in his way must die. With the help of magic, the rival to the throne dealt his first crushing blow. There was a smell of sulfur, and the girl realized that she could hardly breathe, and it was as if her skin was being torn off. The lady hoped that everything was fine with her brother, asking herself where Sophia was. The maid immediately ran up to her, hugging the princess tightly. She begged the child to wake up, because they urgently needed to leave. But suddenly, a malicious smell reached the girl, forcing her to fall asleep. The lady understood that if oxygen got into the room, an explosion would occur. The player's current status was carbon dioxide poisoning. Although this was a game, the player felt like she was in a real family. She missed her dad. He said that he would come when she called him. But that's what happened. When the girl uttered the cherished words, her father appeared before her. He apologized for coming so late, saying that everything would be fine and that Sophia would feel better when they called the doctor. A new status appeared, coma due to carbon dioxide poisoning. The demon thought he could admire their frightened faces a little longer, but they came to their aid sooner than he expected. It wasn't so much fun. It was a reward for how he interacted with him. There was a demon spirit on that paper bird. The guy assumed that if Baikal felt this energy, he would follow it, and he wouldn't mind. After which Zenobia did all the work for him. And all this thanks to the wishing tree, which grows only in the world of demons. Whoever eats its fruit, his worst wishes are fulfilled. Zenobia thought that if Ida did not exist, then he would become an emperor. But in the end, the difference between them is amount of mana. And besides, the demon used the power of this fruit. He would never have hurt her. It was in vain. Now he confirmed the power of Idzis Win Castalia, and he also destroyed Zenobius. The three-eyed one was unpleasant that he treated his toy like that. He should not have talked to her like that, calling Charisse useless. It would be unforgivable not to put a leash on this beautiful soul. If he took her to the mansion, the lady would tell him interesting things every day. It was a pity that he could not do this right now. The demon could not wait, to lay his hands on this young, sinless soul. Alexandra shouted at the maid not to stand still, but to find out what this fool would take advantage of. The demon noticed that the girl was too loud. While Charisse was in an idiotic state, Alexandra was respected more than anyone in the imperial palace. Helga Chin Castalia has been traveling for quite a long time. Lisbel Zen Orion has become a member of the Duke's house, and Cherry Win Castalia was a helpless fool. Since there was no other princess, of course Alexandra became the center of attention at all the balls. True, this year everything changed. The guy understood her condition, but no one could deny that the blonde was very cute, that even the devil couldn't stop looking at her. But, since the older sister is the boy's supervisor, he needs to be on her side. The blonde one asked why his handler was so unhappy, and the reason, of course, was that little girl. It would be better for the lady to think about what she will wear for the next holiday. She would most likely wear some kind of purple outfit. The contractor thought that, at the moment, the youngest princess was sleeping all pale. Her blonde hair resembles the color of wheat, and pink and purple would suit her perfectly, so the boy said that green looks good on the girl. The demon said that most likely Zenobia would be arrested. He will be charged with using the dragon's heart to threaten a member of the royal family under 10 years of age, and they also need to find out what he ate to enhance his power. However, after the wish fruit was consumed, there was no trace of him left. The brown-haired woman demanded that they explain to her what happened. To this, the demon said that the boy had simply become useless. That guy was their pawn, but the only thing he did was remove his importance. Red-Eyed said that Alexandra should get rid of unnecessary chess pieces. He suggested speeding up the fight for the throne, despite the fact that he had previously said that they would not start until the girl turned 15 years old. A year ago, Alexandra had a piece of paper that did not have her father's seal on it, but she felt his energy. It was written there that Pavel was given to the girl as a person with whom she could conclude a contract. Initially, the eldest princess didn't like it at all. She had a birthmark on her ankle, and Pavel had the same one on his wrist. It was good that unwanted children died quickly, but the girl was worried that she might be suspected. But very few people knew about the demon. The guy again began to treat the brown-haired woman as if she were stupid, repeating the same thing. Soon, the demon announced that something was bothering him about the maid, and he would soon take care of it. This could easily mean that he wants to kill the girl. She met the demon in a dark corridor. He asked if Jessica was tired of the way she was being treated. Violet Eyes promised to make the servant's life better than the current one by offering to sign a contract. The fair-haired woman began to pray that the goddess Hafnis would save her. But it was funny, because the goddess had long since left this world. The demon took on an adult form, saying that besides, she should not use the cross if she gave it to the devotee. There is only one life, and the guy wanted her to cheer him up. He asked to surrender, because Jessica couldn't do anything against him. She didn't know. But demons die more from boredom than from battles. There was a contract that they could conclude. The price was the soul of the lady. In return, she would be able to live the way she wanted. Blonde could give her wealth, power, or change her existence. For demons, contracts are what prevent them from living. If living things need to eat to live, then demons need to make contracts. This is the same as killing an animal in order to eat it, an experience that is one of the most important pleasures for a demon. The girl said that she would like to become a princess. The emperor of the south of Castalia and Alexandra's biological father was Richard. The man offered to split the contract in half. He would remain with a benefit in return for the soul. It doesn't matter. It's mutual, regardless of the plan. He wanted the demon to obey his son unquestioningly. He had already heard about this contract from other demons, but since this was the first time, the guy was very interested. However, the laws of the demon kingdom are very archaic, and such contracts are considered illegal. When they made the contract, it was already in the human world, so the rule of going through the door to the human world from the demon world to fulfill the contract was not fulfilled. At that moment, Pavel thought that something interesting would happen, but in the end, it turned out to be a contract in half and boring work. The man pressed his claw to the maid's forehead, saying that today she will be born again. The guy could not understand why the princess did not wake up, to which the doctors and priests could not give an answer. Red couldn't calm down because a week had passed, and the girl was still sleeping. They invited not only doctors, but also priests. Unfortunately, no one could wake her up. Everyone was talking more nonsense. The priest said that he poured his divine power into the blonde and gave her medicine. 10 days have passed since the man received the title of priest, and he was probably lucky. Eid knew that the man had misappropriated money for winter supplies intended for lower-ranking priests, when in reality he got this title by bribing older priests who retired. Being high priest, he got away with extortion and bribery. The only thing he knows how to do is take advantage of his position. This idiot, having heard the truth, began to complain to the master about his sons. But the blonde said that in the near future, they will distribute brochures in all churches and along the roads so that believers understand who the priest really is. The fact is that the imperial family had a video where the same man said that they were using believers to make money. He started shouting that he would bring them dad. To this, Baikal said that if he was not brought in an hour, then the interlocutor would have problems with his legs. The boy began to think that it was all his fault, but it was not so. Gergis thought that the blonde didn't wake up because she hated him. The whole family was very sad that Charisse couldn't wake up. The advisor said that Sophia again asked about the princess's well-being. Surprisingly, the head maid woke up 2 days later. She was in critical condition due to the smoke she inhaled, but the high priest was able to save her by infusing her with divine power. The palace of the White Knight breathed life from the moment this girl arrived. If she was not there, everything was not as always. She always glowed, jumping back and forth like a bunny. The divine prince did not want to lose his daughter too much. He has already lost Kina and cannot lose her daughter as well. Some kind of memory surfaced to the man, because of which he grabbed his head. The memory ended. He didn't even know who was telling him the important words. He had the first memory of saying he would take care of someone. But now, it was only important that Cherry wake up as soon as possible. The girl herself lived a dream where she was in a strange place, similar to space. She received a notification that Cherry received a physical shock during the game. She remembered what happened. Because Zenobia came to her room and made a mess, the lady would never have thought that he would attack her. She was sure that the game began when she was 15 years old, or rather, after 10 years of life. The blonde was more worried about Dad and maid Sophia. A notification came that if the player did not wake up, she would die. She was asked to enter self-healing mode in an emergency. The girl needed to stay in this place until her self-preservation cell was full. The princess guessed that Zenobia ate the wishing fruit. It was often used in the game, but it was too early for this. This fruit is able to increase the strength of the person who ate it. However, the one who takes it puts his life on the line when the player played for Gurgis. Alexandra often sent assassins who ate the wish fruit. She didn't think Zenobia would do something so dangerous. Red-Eyed thought that if she were to become the heir to the throne, then it was for the best. So, when the blonde turns 11 years old, the number of people who want to kill her will be smaller. Suddenly, the player was shown a bed, from real life, on which her cats were sleeping peacefully. She missed them very much and was worried about how they fed. The game wanted one of her babies to become her magical pet. This game turns out to be able to do something like that. This means she needs to choose one of them to appear in the game. But the problem is that the player would like to take them all. And in a moment, the recovery window began to look different, as if it was saying to follow the cats. The girl walked past the window and saw the door. Red Eyes didn't think it would be a bad idea to go out first, and then figure out who to choose as a familiar. But in order to get out, she had to first choose. The lady only had one ticket with hints left, which she can use now. Their abilities could not compare with Gurgis's lion or Idsis's squirrel, and the cat's ability could be something like a special weapon. The princess gave away almost all her stones so that all the cats could become her pets. But for some reason, there were 4 of them, although there were 3. Most likely, some kind of error or failure occurred. The window was completely filled, and the girl began to hear the voice of her dad, who did not want to lose her. In the game itself, Dad stood over the patient and treated her while she responded to his strength. The princess seems to be conscious. The priest was worried that the guy might not be sure. This was to be expected from a pope chosen by God. Dad couldn't concentrate. It was better if only the right people stayed in the room and the rest left. But the man had to keep an eye on the saint. He could not allow this boy to say anything about how he was treated in the temple. The brothers immediately did everything possible to make the scammer leave, asking him to save their sister. The guy said that Charisse is just sleeping and seems to have a lot to do in her sleep. Baikal promised to give Dad whatever he wants if he wakes up his daughter. Everything except marriage to a sleeping girl. It's not that he doesn't know how fathers are treated in the temple. It's clear that the guy can't even eat normally. The prince is sure that he will ask to change his position. The brown-haired man said that all this would become a problem because he fell in love with the princess at first sight. But the stranger had no intention of dying young, and he had no intention of leaving the position of pope. A son-in-law who needs help from his wife's family is not someone who can be trusted. Indeed, the words spoken aloud to the high priest by a sacred symbol and this prayer are just a spectacle. To change the future, the first thing he must do is to have a good relationship with the Cherries family. In the past, the guy didn't even know how to use his power. But the problem was that he still didn't know how to do this. Even though he didn't even do anything, Cherry opened her eyes beautifully. The blonde immediately said that Dad was handsome, asking who he was. The man did not feel any magic, much less a gift. This caused Prince Bakal to completely lose faith in the temple, and he did not allow the princess to attend the inauguration ceremony of the new pope. And the next winter, He also did not allow the lady to take part in the hunt for Aemon, but the guy believed that they would meet again, and he would get her to say his name. It was only after the outbreak of the war with the demons that the saint was able to see Cherry again, many years later. She was the captain of the Imperial Medical Battalion who came to his aid. She didn't remember him, so Dad asked her to just call him Siat. The girl rode throughout the battlefield and saved the lives of many wounded soldiers. She remained steadfast in all situations and never tried to enjoy the privileges of a member of the imperial family. She simply did her duty. Within 3 months, the medical battalion became an indispensable unit on the fierce battlefield with huge casualties. Before they noticed, everyone was worshipping the blonde, calling her a saint. But then they found out who was the cause of the terrible war. The guy shouted that he thought he and Pavel were friends. And just when the long war seemed to be coming to an end, Cherry handed over command of the Imperial Medical Battalion to the commander and disappeared. She said that she perceived this world as a game, so she fulfilled her duty and disappeared. However, about a year after the girl disappeared and the war officially ended, an incident occurred where more people died than in the war, and Dad wanted to do everything to avoid. He asked the girl to wake up and open her eyes to him again. The brown-haired man said that he was waiting for the princess to wake up, and also asked if she had chosen her familiars. Xian asked to look at the light in his hands, which would help determine her condition. Seeing this, the divine prince took the crystal and broke it. Dad will still come to visit the girl to make sure that the princess is healthy. He said that he would come to see him soon. Probably he was talking about the ceremony of appointing a new pope. Combining the clothes of the temple and her attractive appearance, the lady realized who was standing in front of her. Charisse didn't even have time to ask the name of her savior when he, on the initiative of her father, left. All the maids were very worried and missed the little lady. The girl said that she wanted to see how Sophia was doing, but they started telling her that she should rest. After what happened, it was natural that they would want to protect the blonde. She felt sorry that she had caused everyone to worry. Suddenly, the brothers appeared in the room with food in bed. The boy, who is the father, seemed very suspicious to the red-eyed one. Girgis said that before they compensate him again, they should hire an escort to get the girl out of various situations. The reason she did not have her own night was because it is proposed that everyone must abide by the 10-year limit set by His Majesty the Emperor. Until outside the White Knight Palace, members of the imperial family are less than 10 years old, it is stipulated to have their own official night, and having an escort meant breaking orders. If Charisse had to go to an event outside, they would have to accompany her. In exchange, when she was in the White Knight Palace, she would have her own night. Among the red-haired people, there are people who are suitable as a knight on the street. They can say that this is just an escort. The blonde maid Zenobia apologized to her, but she was injured due to the explosion. Dita told that View saved her, and she was not hurt because her brother protected her. Officially, the Pope will arrive in 2 days, which is too short to receive a knight, so Girgis suggested skipping this holiday. But the princess immediately jumped up, shouting that she wanted to go to the holiday. Dad is an elderly man with the highest rank in the temple, and the most difficult obstacle to overcome in completing the mission of distributing the ointment is the temple. She said that she did not want to be alone in the palace, and that she was interested in the holiday itself. The girl decided to throw a tantrum, lie down on the pillow, and cry, screaming that if Dad didn't allow her to go to the holiday, then from today on she would stop liking him. Baykal had one condition. The girl should not be separated from Idsis and Girgis. She must be with one of them all the time. Then he will let the child go to the holiday. Now, the princess should have been left to rest. The blonde needed to name her cats, but she couldn't use the same names as in the past. She named them Lulu, Mimi, Nana, and Dodo. Now the player thinks that she no longer has a reason to return to her world. Dad understood that the princess should already notice how strange this world is. This time, she has her cats with her, so there is no reason to go back, because what she wanted was to stay here forever. The past Charisse moved on from the melancholy that held her back, and the false belief that none of this was real. But after the blonde left, this world began to crumble. All the instructions and policies that she had built remained, but without her control, they quickly lost their functionality. And when the empire came to an end, Mr. Dragon and Emperor Leocad sacrificed their lives, using magic that could turn back time. And Dad volunteered to travel through time. This wonderful magic had limitations. One of them, the guy could not tell Princess Cherry the reason for the destruction of the future, and the other, he could not say that this was the real world and not a game. If he tells her everything, then the restrictions will fail. This means that the brown-haired man must encourage her to make her understand that this is the real world. When the princess loses consciousness and falls asleep for a week, he will provide her with a magical pet. Because of this, Leocad from the future will understand that they changed everything. These cats are like her family in this world. If the boy is brought here, she will have no regrets. A familiar is a part of its owner's soul, but they were brought here to become her pets. Cherry is very smart and will quickly realize that something is wrong. What the traveler is so concerned about is how to deal with the biggest obstacle in their plan. Pavel, he stayed next to the girl, drumming into her the idea that this world is nothing more than a game. The man realized that he should have met the lady earlier. The dragon is a creature that can see the past and present time. If he turns back time, he may die. The emperor thought it strange that his son should come to see him, but he only asked if the man really knew about everything. His Majesty said that although Baikal has grown up, he still remains arrogant. He should not show himself to his grandfather with such energy. The gray-haired man ignored his son's questions until the last moment, inviting him to share a glass with him. The man found a paper bird that was possessed by a demon. He asked if Dad knew what damage it could cause outside the imperial palace. The emperor ordered to forget about it, but the red-haired man did not let up, because his daughter only woke up today. Then the gentleman said that this demon has a contactor. At the moment, it is not so scary, so you can leave him alone. The man shouted that Zenobia had eaten a demon fruit, one that could corrupt the mind and increase strength. He said that in return, he fulfilled her wish. He assigned Murdan to her and allowed her to use the Department of Medicine of the Imperial Palace, and His Majesty repaid the debt. He already said, but the prince's problem was that he gets irritated easily. Baikal himself is to blame for not being able to pacify his temperament, which made him imprisoned, and as a result, Kina's daughter was abandoned. This meant that the blonde suffered for 4 years because her uncle was imprisoned. Now he would not sit idly by and make the same mistakes. His Highness asked to be allowed to deal with this demon on his own. This girl is smart, moreover. She is exceptional. She communicates well with the servants in the kitchen and in the garden. She is loved by everyone. This little princess was very helpful. The emperor couldn't even remember the last time he was told not to do something. There was nothing the man didn't know. For their wonderful future, this means that the future is not so wonderful, and that they failed, most likely. All the dragon's plans failed, and Castelia was destroyed. So maybe the dragon and the emperor worked together to turn back time. If they failed, that's the only option. Dragons can change time, but humans can't. Except for the time traveler who received a miracle, the world will follow the same path a second time, and only 2 people can change it: a saint and time traveler who witnessed the destruction. In addition, if the world was destroyed and they turned back time, the man must behave as before. Only in this way the future will safely change and be slightly distorted. He must secretly make a script so that the world can calmly move on. Now His Majesty understands why he recently felt worse than before. Since he did something so incredible as turning back time, his condition would immediately worsen. Now the emperor is going to grow old quickly and get rid of all kinds of diseases. He is trying, like any ordinary person. It's great to be able to turn back time and die for the sake of the next generation. He wondered whether his descendants would recount his exploits in detail in the history books. A demon with singed hair, who lives in the imperial palace, hangs around Alexandra. When it comes to demons, it is best to leave things unchanged for as long as possible. It's not a bad idea to kill and destroy everyone, but if fate wants to endanger this country and this demon is connected to it, no matter what Baikal is up to, this devil will survive no matter what. Due to synchronization errors or coincidences, they may never meet, because this is how this world works. You could say that this world, the theater production, and the crisis that is part of the plot, means the only thing they can do is survive. Red suddenly declared that he would not become such a monster as His Majesty. Even so, now that he is with her, he doesn't need to worry about the princess. Baikal's 2 sons will also be useful. The emperor can't turn back time several times, so they shouldn't make a mistake this time. The girl wants to use the dart illusion with a save point. She would like to wait a little longer before using the dart, but it would be bad if some dangerous situation happened like the last time. It is best to save where the lady gave plum wine to grandfather, because this mission follows the mission about distributing the ointment. Do this task once, and there will be a bunch of stones, and then you can buy a bunch more darts. The maid brought many gifts from different places to congratulate him on his recovery. The smallest box was a gift from Dad. Inside were ribbons that are attached to the animals' necks. The blonde immediately realized that they were familiars to her. The second maid brought gifts from the Emperor. The girl will spend days opening these gifts, and Gurgis even brought a horse for her. Grandfather sent her bitter medicine, but if you eat it, you can become stronger. The princess arrived in the kitchen to prepare new medicines. The newcomer was shocked that the child would give His Majesty the liquor he made with his own hands. There is no soju in this world, so the player will add some vodka, but she thinks that this will make it taste better. Its taste is delicate and bittersweet, which makes people not even realize that they are drunk. The lady wanted to take advantage of the opportunity when she could give the drink to her grandfather. It is not important to give the impression that the girl is close to the master, because she is sure there will be many obstacles to the distribution of the ointment in the medical department. And if you get additional permission from your grandfather, then it will be very simple. Not only the temple, but also the people of each province may be refused cooperation. So, even though she is blonde and forest, she will become a tiger and take this opportunity to gain the favor of the emperor. Without a doubt, the Schwinn and Yan family members would be against her idea. Charisse just needed Grandpa to get angry with them once. If everything goes according to plan, the lady will be able to quickly return the stones without any problems. A lot of time passed, and that very day came, the day of the new dad. The brother asked if the sister would take her purse today. She is 4 years old. The boy has heard that children at this age like to wear anything. The father said that his daughter could use anything she wanted. The man asked not to forget that Cherry should be with her brothers all the time. Even when she is interested in something, she should not go far. Now that the princess was thinking about it, she had not yet shown her pets, so she said that she wanted Daddy to see them. The reason the girl slept for so long was because she had a familiar. The lady invited her cats to meet her family. The divine prince said that these cats are very similar to the heroine. They are very gentle and beautiful. The twins were surprised, because there had never been a case where there were 4 pets. Dad has no idea that Charisse was reborn into that body, and her babies came into this world from reality. It would be nice to pay 5 million stones slowly, with the help of knowledge in medicine, and stay here as a pharmacist. Although the princess is worried that the third original mission is still in effect, if she does not complete the original mission, the window will not close. There is no reason for her to close the window. When she returns, she will have to pay the rent and student loans. It is already too difficult to deal with food expenses in this world. Therefore, a lady should consider this place as a new reality. And here, unlike another world, there are people who are very important to her. If she becomes Yuncheri again, she will be left alone, so the girl does not fulfill the original mission and remains here for the rest of her life. In an instant, the girl heard a strange noise. Suddenly, a new window appeared, making the lady feel like it had appeared to cause trouble for her. There was a reminder of duty right at the moment when he and his brothers arrived at the holiday. The debt has increased, and very much so. A new task was also given, which if you fail, you can get death. This damn system took advantage of the moment to send this message. She said that if she failed, she would suffer instant death. Most likely, Cherry would simply be beheaded. Although yes, she may end up in a trap and be poisoned during the battle for the throne. If the blonde does not pay off her debt before the age of 12, she will die again. If she dies, she will have to start over from the save point. She didn't want to die. It probably hurts, just like in real life. But if the princess lived 100 years, it would be difficult to earn 11 million stones again. The lady did not want to die cruelly and be reborn until the moment she repaid the debt. Red-Eyed thought that this world would be better than the real one, but there was not much difference. Suddenly, the father noticed that the girl looked pale and worried. The girl replied that she was just worried because there were a lot of people, but she not only has to pay off the debt, but also become a contender for the throne. And even worse, there is a third mission about which nothing is known at all. It was already difficult to pay off 10 billion won in real life, and now she has to pay 11 billion stone before she turns 12. She can't do anything to lower the interest rate. She can't participate in the pharmaceutical business at the moment, and must be in the realm of poisons. The pharmacist needed to find a way to earn stones in a short time. It's a beautiful day where everyone celebrates the ascension of the new pope. The blonde decided that she shouldn't think about these things, but then she will die before she pays off the debt. Realizing this, the girl screamed, because when she comes back to life, she will continue to repay the debt. Cherry needed to come to her senses, because this is not something that can be solved by distraction. She needed to prove herself at the party for the sake of the mission. The princess approached the old woman and thanked her for their meeting. This woman was Countess Schubertine and Countess Mozartin. When the prince was 5, he had to play the violin and piano. Prince Gergius often ran away, and Prince Idzis could play like a master. Countess Bachmann is the greatest composer of their time. The woman immediately realized that the girl had come with the idea that she would succeed. She stated that a child who does not have a mother should not attend such events. The redhead instantly stood up to Alexandra, saying that their baby looked great in any clothes. And it's the older sister who should worry about this, because Alexandra is dressed like a pumpkin. The countesses were greatly offended, because the prince himself could call someone so ridiculous. But the countesses were not talking about the outfit, but about the medical bag. To show the mistake, they said something about her style, that the old woman who approached the blonde was not supportive at all. In Hagi's article, if there is a person who belongs to the aristocracy, he must show a person like the princess her mistake. The red-eyed one said that Miss Ciela was dressed very nicely, because her dress is more beautiful than the eldest princess's entire outfit. This girl's mother declared that her daughter's dress could not surpass Princess Alexandra's. It wasn't nice to swear here, so Charisse just insisted on telling everyone that the girl's dress wasn't that pretty. The fabric of the princess's dress was made by local craftsmen. They said that the girl was very kind. One could say that this dress suited Princess Alexandra best. The princess heard from her dad that many children wear dyed clothes, and decided to ask the girl about it. In truth, everyone knew about it, but were silent. Most dyers round up orphans, lock them up, and force them to work. Thus they reduce jobs, strength, and time to work. In fact, the player learned about this in the game itself. Alexandra liked dresses made in the Absinthe region. Since they know about it, it is worth raising this topic and saving children from slave labor. They say that paint makes your hands swell, but a lady would not wear clothes that are made so difficult. The eldest suddenly shouted that she was wearing this dress without knowing it. The blonde said that this handbag is actually a first aid kit. If there is a child who is sick, it can cure him. The brown-haired woman called the youngest naive, because why would a princess treat commoners? But in the end, this dispute will turn against the girl. She understood when she began to raise this topic, because of her character. Now she, more than anyone, is grateful to Alexandra's temper. The lady said that we are talking about protecting the people. In this situation, she will be scrapped because she spoke out against the people. Suddenly, the elder sister noticed judgmental glances at herself. Firstly, Alexandra deserved this, so she began to scream, "How dare Cherry say something like that to such a stately person like her?"